Good evening and welcome to the Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency's meeting today, Tuesday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. John, will you please provide us with a brief introduction?
Yes, hello and welcome. I'll be providing assistance during today's meeting. Before we start, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items so the public audience knows how to participate. Your microphones have been muted to reduce background noise during this public meeting. There will be specific times during this meeting when members of the public can ask questions and provide feedback. The first way is by typing their question into the questions section at the bottom of the GoToWebinar interface. Those items will be read into the record by a meeting organizer at the appropriate time. Please be sure to include your name for the record. The second way is by using the GoToWebinar interface and clicking on the raise hand option. A meeting organizer will announce the speaker and unmute their audio, at which time the speaker should state their name for the record. Before speaking, please take steps to minimize any sources of background noise and speak clearly into your device during your allotted time. I will now turn control over to Board Chair Stephen Grant, who will be presiding over today's meeting.
Thank you, John. First, we'll have an invocation led by Board Member Hay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for another beautiful day in sunny South Florida. We ask now that you be in the midst of this meeting, open up our minds and hearts, and let the decisions that we make will be for the betterment of our city and our citizens. We thank you for all the staff of CRA and our executive director, Michael Simon. We pray, Father, for this board, our board chair, and all the board members. We pray, Father, that you will continue to give us the persistence and strength and wisdom to overcome what this world is facing, what this state and this great city of Boynton is facing with the COVID-19. We pray that somewhere down the line, you will give us the wisdom to come up with a vaccine. And we'll give you all the glory and all the honor that you so deserve. Let every heart say, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Amen. All right. May I have a roll call, please? Catherine?
I'm here. Oh, wrong one.
Catherine, are you?
All right, I believe she was muted by myself. Oh.
All right, we're both clicking it. So.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so can you, Catherine, can you unmute on your half? It still says you're self-muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, and I apologize. Me and John were both clicking the same button.
Thank you. It's okay. Chairman Stephen Grant.
Present.
Board Member Woodrow Hay.
Here.
Vice Chair Penserga.
Here.
Board Member Justin Katz.
Here.
Board Member Christina Romulus.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Agenda approval, any additions, deletions, corrections, or would someone like to move any of the items up? I know that we have a couple people here for the letter of intent, and I want to know if we can for the cottage district, and if we can move that up instead of in front of consent agenda.
I'm fine with that, Mayor. So moved.
I'm fine with that.
All right. Excellent. All right. So may I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
So everybody's speaking now. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Informational items and disclosures by board members and CRA staff. Board Member Katz, would you like to begin?
Nothing really to disclose. I received a couple of email and voicemail communications from interested parties for the cottage district, but I did not choose to meet with any of them because it's my intent tonight to pursue an RFP process, and that's it.
Thank you. Board Member Hay?
I did speak with two of the presenters, the developers for the cottage district, Centennial, and I can't remember his first name is Frank. I did speak with them about their proposal for the cottage district. That's it.
All right. And Board Member Romulus?
Mayor, I did receive several emails and phone calls. I did speak with individuals from Centennial Management regarding their letter of intent. I would also ask for your indulgence outside of my disclosures. Today is my firstborn son, Christian Romulus's 7th birthday, and I'm missing it because I'm here in my commission, my CRA board meeting. But I would hold on a second, puppy. But I would like to ask for you all to help me wish my son a happy birthday.
Hey.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Can we
Happy
sing?
birthday.
You want to sing happy birthday?
Absolutely. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you. Happy
Happy
birthday, dear
birthday,
Christian. Happy
Happy
birthday to
birthday
you.
to you. Yay.
Yay.
And Christian, this will be on YouTube if you want to hear it anytime throughout the year.
Our
I
amazing
think this
singing.
is going viral.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if we'll take the show on the road.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Christian.
We'll tell everybody that Justin had the lead.
Yeah.
Love you, puppy. Did you like your surprise? Okay. Where's my son?
All right. And Vice Chair, do you have any things to disclose?
Yes, I spoke with all 3 parties involved in the cottage district, Azure, Fox Ridge, as well as Centennial.
All right. As for myself, I spoke with all people who are sending out the letter of intent, Azure, Fox Capital, and Centennial. I spoke with a property owner adjacent to the 401, 407, and 411 East Boynton Beach Boulevard project, and I spoke with Erwin Sineas from Boynton Strong regarding equity in regards to the CRA and the different projects that we have coming up. And that's it for me. All right. And I'm sorry, Catherine, we stepped over you. Legal, any update, the COVID-19 pandemic state of Florida and Palm Beach County Executive Order update?
Yes, there are some updates. Actually, one of them is breaking as of today. Palm Beach County requested that its administration withdraw its request to Governor DeSantis for Palm Beach County to enter phase 2. Technically, that order is not effective for 2 more days, but Palm Beach County is really, based on the numbers, not trying to open things further. They're really moving towards shutting things down. As you all are probably aware at this point, the county also issued mandatory mask orders last month. And so really what this means is gatherings need to remain limited to smaller sizes right now. Mask orders are still in place. It's really more of the same, except that Palm Beach County is not trying to advance out of phase 1 at this point.
All right. Thank you for that information. I do not see any announcements and awards. Informational only. We have a public comment log and public relations articles. And next we will move to consent agenda. I'm sorry, public comments. So John, will you please open up the ability for people to ask questions or raise their hand.
Board Chair Grant, that option has been enabled. And as a reminder, you can use on the GoToWebinar interface the raise hand icon, or click into the option to type a question, and we will handle those as they are registered in the system.
All right. And I don't see anyone raising their hand or asking a question, and John, I'm going to ask you to leave it open because we do have a couple items on the agenda for people to speak at. And so,
okay,
you know, regarding old business and new business. And so that way we'll know before the item if someone would like to speak on that. All right, give it one more second for anybody to raise their hand or ask a question. And I am not seeing anything. So we will move to consent to our, which one is this?
15B. C.
Thank you.
15C.
15C, discussion and consideration of letter of intent for the CRA owned properties located at Northeast 4th Avenue, Northeast 5th Avenue, AKA the Cottage District. Catherine, one of the things I asked you to do is review our letter of intent policy that we have in place. And can you please remind the board what has happened now because we have had more than one letter of intent?
Yes, absolutely. So now that you have more than one letter of intent, you sort of still have essentially the same options that you always have, which is that you may consider the letters, you may reject them, or you may go out for RFP. Your policy does state that when you have more than 2 letters, it's the time that you consider going out for RFP. And really the difference between the two is if you're interested in one of the proposals before you, you can go ahead and notice that and have 30 days for anyone else to submit their sort of proposals to you as you normally would under this circumstance, at which point the board can consider them all. But in doing that, the board would really not be in the position to set terms for what it would like to see. If the board would like to sort of explain to the market what it is that it would like to see in these proposals, it can set an RFP and direct its staff to go draft an RFP that can then be put out, and the proposals can be brought back for the board's consideration. So really the issue before you is whether you'd like to set terms or whether you'd like the market to offer up what it has, or whether you'd like to reject all of the proposals.
All right, thank you. Based upon the comments of board member Katz, who said we would like to go out to RFP, I also would like to go after RFP and hopefully get the best project. As we know, we do have competition there. But what I would like and request is that we give each of the people who have the letter of intent an opportunity to give a 5-minute presentation for the board not to ask any questions or comments, and that at the end of the 3 5-minute presentations, we make our comments of what we would like to see. And that way, both the CRA staff and the applicants can have a better understanding of what the CRA board wants, both for the RFP and for the answers to the RFP. And rather than going back and forth with each of the developers, because until the RFP is issued, there is no cone of silence, and the CRA board is allowed to speak with any of the applicants or additional applicants. And I'll ask the board if that's an appropriate procedure to move forward, that we hear from the 3 presenters or 3 people that put it in the letter of intent before this meeting, and we'll limit it to 5 minutes, so it doesn't take too long.
I support that, Mayor.
Thank you.
I concur as well.
All right, so we got 3.
All right.
4. All right, so I believe Centennial offered the first LOI, so we'll let them go first. followed by Fox Ridge, and then Azor. And so,
Mayor Grant? Yeah.
Yep.
Which members of the attendees would represent Centennial?
I believe Elizabeth Roque, and I'll handle the microphones, okay?
Okay, perfect.
So Elizabeth, I unmuted you on the organizer. You're still self-muted. If the CRA has the ability to bring up, I guess, the new letter of intent that they put. Bonnie, are you able to take control and give us an overview?
Good evening, Board Chair. I just sent Mr. John McNally has the attachment. He's going to pull it up for you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And John, do you have the applications for the other two presenters or letter of intent?
I
Can you hear
have
me?
one for Fox Ridge Capital.
Mm-hmm. And do you have one for Azor as well?
Board,
I do not.
I will
Okay.
send
Board
them.
Chair, Mike can clarify that. I believe they sent it after our agenda published date. So Mike, if you'd like me to, I'll let Mike answer that question.
All right.
Yes, Board Chair, we did include it in the, with the Frank Guzman response or submittal, but I'm happy to email that to John if you would like it presented.
Yeah, I'd like to see if we can have presented the most recent letter of intent for each of the applicants.
Very good.
And so, Elizabeth, is this the most recent letter of intent?
No, that is not the most recent letter of intent. Well, this is my only letter of intent that I had sent out formally. And then what I had done is I had sent emails to everyone with an updated revised intent for the Cottage District.
All right, so let's see if I can.
Elizabeth, was the update that you sent just the site plan, or did you include new terms? I have just the
No, I
site plan.
included new terms for both a homeownership entry-level townhouse program and an elderly community for a total of 139.
John, I'm going to take over because I have the updated.
Okay.
And so that way we'll go from there. So let's see. So
do you still need me to download the emails that Mike just sent me?
I don't. It's currently not showing my screen, I don't think.
Let's see.
It's just.
I see your screen here.
Okay, so the way that I see it is I only see the webcam video. So everybody sees the screen with the Google Doc
Yes,
of the site plan.
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move forward with that. So Elizabeth, we have the updated site plan. We're going to give you 5 minutes to just briefly describe your whole project. After which we're going to go on to the next applicant, and then we're going to allow each of the board members to speak of what they like and what they don't like. So both you as an applicant and the CRA staff can draw, so the CRA staff can draw up an RFP.
Okay, well, beautiful. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I'm very excited about what we're presenting here after listening to the board members and what the community was kind of looking for. I felt that this was the best of both worlds. And so what we're proposing are to do 31 townhomes, entry-level townhomes for sale, and also a elderly community of 108 units. And the townhomes would be approximately 2,000 square feet, and they would border along Northeast 5th and Northeast 1st Street. They would have a 2-car garage, and they would have porches in the front, so it would be very much like urban living, where they could walk along the sidewalks, enter their homes from their front porches, but then their driveways would be in the back off of the street, and they would pull into their own private driveways. And then as far as the elderly community was concerned, we proposed 108 1 and 2 bedroom units that would be an affordable community for the elderly. And I really felt, after getting to know some of the community, and with Ocean Breeze coming out of the ground, and we're getting ready to lease that up soon, we've gotten a lot of phone calls from the elderly community asking, can we be on the first floor? Can we afford this? And I thought to myself, maybe the cottage district could provide a really great need for the elderly people in the community. So that's how I came up with the idea first of the elderly community, and then listening to the board with the homeownership program, I felt that the townhouse community would be great as well. And one of the things I like about it is that we can plat them separately. So we can have the townhouse units on the outside, that's platted as one community, and then the second would be the elderly community. So all of the townhouses would be fee simple, and people would purchase them and own them, and that's how it would work. One of the things that I do want to talk about, which is really important, is if you go into an RFP, I don't know that the timing would be right as far as for us to be able to go in for the 9% tax credits for this year in November of 2020. So if you want to see something coming out of the ground in spring of 2021, I think that, we would find out in spring of 2021, and we would be able to start building in 22. So we have a lot of momentum going right now with Ocean Breeze and then MLK, and this would naturally just kind of fall right in line with the rest of the communities and our projects. We have a great team of people from Boynton Beach, from our electricians and the contractors and subcontractors. And so it just seems like a natural fit, and something that I really kind of felt good about providing to the community. And so the elderly community, we would have a fitness center. We would be able to have a community room clubhouse for them. We would be able to provide, and we do this already with some of our programs down here in South Florida. That's what the townhouse would look like, a concept. That's what some of our clubhouses look like now that you're seeing. And they're absolutely beautiful. We have kitchens, we have computer labs, we have living rooms, we have a TV room, we have a fitness center, a copy center. And all of these things would be provided to the elderly community as the same as in Ocean Breeze and MLK. This is what we do. The one thing though, you're looking at a proposed floor plan, which I thought was really kind of nice, where you walk into an open concept living room and dining room and family room, a great room, a half bathroom downstairs, and three bedrooms upstairs. But again, one of the things is that we could also, and we do this, we have staff on site that we check on our tenants at one of our elderly communities now, where we knock on the door. Hey, is everybody okay? Do you need anything today? Mrs. Jones, Mr. Smith, Mr. Gonzalez, yes or no? We have transportation that can pick people up and take them to their doctor's appointments. They have activities daily that we provide, and these are some of the things that we can also provide to the elderly community here in Boynton Beach. So I really feel like it's a win-win. I think that we love doing what we do. We propose to pay $800,000 for this property, and close with however we want to work out our terms, but we can do it. And I think we would probably win that 9% in November of this year and be able to continue our momentum. And I think that's it. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited and I hope we can do something.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. And so our next is, what did I say, Fox Ridge? So let me see if I can bring that up.
It's one of the attachments.
Yep. And so I believe this is Fox Ridge.
That is Centennial's first.
That was Centennial's first.
Yes, sir. It's attachment 4.
Gotcha. All right.
There you go.
And so let me go look for Frank.
This is Grant.
This is Grant.
Horowitz.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent. Grant,
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Board member, commissioners, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our presentation and to get a feeling for what we are trying to deliver. So just for background information, I'm an owner of 3301 Quantum in Boynton Beach, and I thank you, the City Hall and the CRA, for being tenants in our building for the last few years. I wish you all the best in the new City Hall, and I look forward to seeing the building as it's kind of tenanted. So our proposal to redevelop the Cottage District is with 44 new for-sale workforce housing dwellings. It's going to consist of 16 single-family homes, which will be 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and 28 townhouse units, which will be 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths. All of these homes will meet and exceed hurricane code for 180-mile-per-hour winds with all impact glass. Being that there'll be workforce housing, the maximum sales price that we're looking for to get on these is going to be, it will not exceed $290,000. And to be honest, most of our product will probably fall in the $260,000 to $270,000 range. Our plan is consistent with the Heart of Boynton redevelopment plan and the 2018 May Cottage District infill housing redevelopment RFP that was put out to support the overall redevelopment of the Heart of Boynton community and the surrounding areas. One of the things that we're looking to accomplish is really to create some wealth for families in the Boynton Beach area by allowing home ownership, which is fundamentally difficult for first-time homeowners, as well as people that are in the 80 to 120% of average median income in the area. So we're trying to accomplish the ability for people to really purchase their first homes and start creating some family wealth within it. In addition, we're looking to provide some public enhancements that will improve the cultural, economic, and aesthetic quality of life for the residents. So included in our proposal is also green space that we think would be a perfect spot for a community park to be developed. We know that there are kids that are actively in the area and spending time in Boynton. There is always a great deal of activity on the streets. I think we'd rather redirect them to a green space into an open field where they can play and create a work-life balance that is key to a successful community. One of the things that we've been talking about is there's the new development of the City Hall project along with the police station, as well as a rental community that's going to be developed about 2 blocks to the north of this project. And we think this fits very nicely into the community of creating a well-balanced, well-rounded community where the activity level will increase and it'll become a more social and vibrant community. A welcoming community that we think that people want to actively participate and live in. The finishes within the house that we're presenting are all we're high quality with granite or stone countertops, stainless steel appliances. All the townhouses will have garages on the first floor, and the single family homes will have carports or optional garages depending on what the ultimate buyers feel they want to have. They will all be fee simple in direction, so that people will truly have ownership of this, and we'll create a homeowners association to make sure that we maintain aesthetics and keep everything neat and current. From a timing perspective, we are once the pads are in place, we can have every home built within 120 days if upon sale. So we can move very, very quickly in our ability to execute on the plans. With the plans, we also think that it's important to give back to the community. And one of the things we've already spoken to our to our GC about is creating an apprentice program so that people in the community can actively participate from trade schools or students that are looking to get into plumbing, electrical, drywall work. Will all be able to actively participate and be an active user and learn on site with our general contractor. So the general contractor was actually very excited about doing that type of project, and they think it's a value add for both the GC and the young people in the community. From a look and feel, we're looking to create I don't know if you can scroll up a little bit just to give the pictures of the units that we're looking to develop. There you go. So that's a picture of the townhouses that we've already priced out, already have ready to go. And so their first floor garages, second floor will be living space, third floor will be 3 bedrooms. Second floor will also have a half bath. And if you don't mind scrolling down a little bit, just to so that is the floor plans that we're going to present, and those are already ready to go with our architect, which we've engaged, and our general contractor, which is prepared to move forward. And if you scroll down just a little bit more, please, you'll see the single family homes. That's just a picture of the townhouses that have already been developed, similar type townhouses in Key West. And these are single family homes that we're talking about. The picture does not show the garage, which will be attached on the left side of the picture for most of the homes, but this is the aesthetic, and this is the house that we would be developing from the model perspective. So with that, I think that's a picture of a house that's already been delivered exactly as we specified. So with that, I think we'll turn it back over to the board, and we're excited about answering questions as they come in the future.
All right. Excellent. And then there we go. All right. And so, Michael, who is the speaker for Azure? Oh.
Frank Gosman, if they're here this evening.
I don't think I see him as
An attendee?
no. And so if anybody would like to speak on behalf of Azure, you could please raise a hand or ask a question. And
So the board knows they were provided with a link to the meeting as everyone else was. So maybe they just, but they were provided.
all right. And yeah, I'm not seeing them. And so this is their site plan as proposed, only single family homes. All right. So I'm going to, give them one more second to see if anybody else is going to be able to raise their hand or have questions. I do not see so. So I'm going to give you back control, John.
Okay.
And now we're viewing your screen. Perfect.
Now, I believe where I left off was the letter of intent, which is probably not appropriate at this point. So I'm going to unshare the presentations at this time.
Perfect.
Let me know what you would like me to display, and I'll bring that up.
I guess my other question is that I don't know if there's anything else to display. So I'm going to go
Here.
Board Member Katz to lead off his discussion, what he likes, what he doesn't like, and what he would like to see in the RFP.
Thank you, Board Chair. I guess so. I'm conflicted. One, because I can't personally ignore the fact that Centennial has been able to put together proposals twice in a row that have secured 9% tax credits, and even though I'm not keen necessarily on the elderly restricted communities, if they're able to, strike another win up there and get tax credits, I can't turn down millions of dollars from the state either. So I won't go into much detail, but I'm torn between potentially giving them a crack at it to go for the tax credits in this cycle and going out to an RFP, which might, I guess staff could inform us better if, based on the time frame we have, is it possible to get an RFP out and get it back to allow time for a potential applicant to apply for the 9%? If it's too tight, I'm conflicted. I'll leave it at that for now.
All right. Board Member Hay.
I do concur with the comments by Board Member Katz. I will say though that I do lean toward having something for our senior saints as well as single family. I like the idea of the mix, because right now in Boynton we don't do a lot, we don't do enough, I'll put it that way, for our seniors. And I think to have I believe she said somewhere around 108 or something like that for the elderly is a good idea. But again, I wanted to know, and maybe I won't go into much detail right now, but what happens if Centennial doesn't get the 9%? Is the deal closed, or they can still move on down the road? They certainly have proven themselves. So with that, I just kind of wait and feel my way through. But I do like the concept of the mix.
All right. Board Member Romulus.
Thank you, Mayor. And for the sake of disclosures, I did speak with all three applicants this evening. I forgot to mention that earlier. And in my opinion, I am open to going the RFP route just to ensure that we have the best tools on the table for moving forward. I, along with my fellow commissioners or board members who just spoke, do tend to lean in the direction of what Centennial is offering simply because of their past success with us. I'd like to just make it a fair opportunity for everybody. And again, if there is an opportunity to go there and receive funding from the state, I am not opposed to that. So I guess I'll just wait from staff to give us some guidance on if the timeline works and if that's a feasible option. And we can make a decision from there.
All right. And Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair Grant. So I'm in the same boat as everyone else, generally speaking. It is hard to ignore the fact that Centennial has been successful in the past, and they have 2 large projects already. I'm also very interested in Fox Ridge and the idea of the apprenticeship program and these single-family homes and townhomes. But after hearing all of you, I think there's a very simple compromise. I think the worry here is that there might be preferential treatment or reduction in competition. But if I read the agenda cover correctly, it says here that we could agree to, for example, Centennial, and that does not lock us in by any means. It simply allows them to, I think the words that Board Member Katz used was to give them a crack at state funding, and the other parties can still present their proposal thereafter. Is that, do I have that correct, staff? Mr. Simon?
Well, from a timing perspective, Catherine, you can jump in too, but I think from a timing perspective, the process wouldn't allow them to make application to the state for funding for the project under the notice, the public notice envelope. That they would be applying with an agreement with the CRA to acquire that property if the funding is achieved, or prior to going to application that they have site control. So you by then you'd have to decide, and you would theoretically have negotiated a contract with Centennial for them to apply.
Okay. So,
but in
sure.
your
I guess my real
notice,
question here is, the other applicants, can they still present a counter proposal, right? Do they still have fair access to that?
Yes. So under the requirements, if you choose to move forward with one of the proposals tonight, you still have to post the notice, and there still has to be 30 days that the notice is out to the public, during which time anyone can present their proposals, after which you will, as a board, consider all the proposals if you'd like to consider for the process. The issue is related to what Mike was saying, in that generally during that time you would be working on the agreement with Centennial for them to be able to submit as part of their application. So if the board's intent is not to enter into a contract, it's difficult to be working towards a contract together that is maybe not the board's actual intent to enter into.
Well, I will say that I do like the idea of the senior housing. If the demand is there, I think that's what matters. If there's a community need, we should try to meet it. It almost doesn't matter how I feel. It's about what the demand is. I think both parties also offer home ownership. I think that's a win-win. And, you know, as Commissioner Katz says, it's really hard for me to turn down some state funding if that's an opportunity. But at the same time, I don't want to reduce competition. So if there's a way to do this, give them a crack at state funding while also hearing other proposals, that's the route that I would be in favor of.
Chair.
I was going to speak, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, in order to kind of maybe answer all this, is there a way to make our contract contingent on their funding?
We've done that in the past for all of our subsidized housing, and that's how we've gotten the project back multiple times. I forget the different developers. I know Related try to do it. I think it was not Roundstone, but one of the others. And so if they don't receive the funding, we have the option to get the property back. I'm not in the same boat as I guess the rest of the board. I don't want multifamily in the cottage district because we call it a cottage district. It's supposed to be single family homes. It is not supposed to be multifamily homes. It will effectively change the neighborhood there. You know, you see one of the presenters has a park for the children because there are a lot of kids there. And that's why I was hoping that we would have the conversation for workforce housing and allowing more units to be built at the Wells Landing site so that we could have a designated building for 55 and older. This is we slated it as a cottage district. We never slated it as elderly homes. The aspect of the $800,000 that they're offering to pay, they also require a match from us for $550,000. So it's not like they're paying $800,000 for the property. They're just giving us the money so we can match. And I think the property is worth more. And that's kind of where I'm at, is that I understand when we get this taxpayer money from the state, it's not us getting the taxpayer money, it's Centennial. And we don't necessarily, Centennial doesn't necessarily redistribute that equity, which is different than the cost savings. Equity includes the aspect of building wealth in the community. And that's something that's important to me. You know, having these starter homes is what the community's been asking for decades. And I feel that's what we should be leaning for, in that, you know, it's kind of like we've come so far, and it was interesting the difference between their first letter of intent and their second letter of intent. And it kind of shows me that there may be a lot that they're leaving on the table with the Wells Landing project because of how much space they have. And, you know, should we ask for more because we only have one opportunity? For example, Ocean Breeze East, you know, they could have built 4 or 5 stories, but they only built 3 stories. And that's something that we as a board have to realize. We have to get the most we can from each developer of what we want. And so if the board says, you know what, having the subsidized housing for the elderly is the most important thing, and the fact that we can add townhouses on the outside, it's not necessarily a cottage district, but it provides 130 units to the community, and that's what we care most about, versus keeping the residential feel of that community and not, you know, and turning it more into that urbanized area. I'm in favor of an RFP having the aspect of the developer build both career skills with an apprenticeship program, having the pocket park for the children, and having the home ownership aspect of it, and not having the multifamily housing, because that's not necessarily what that property was meant for or what it was slated for. And that's kind of my feeling is that we have other properties in the CRA that are potential for multifamily that are mixed use that could be elderly homes. And that's something that I would like the RFP and say that, not to say that it's off the table, but I understand if we move for our RFP and not give a letter of intent to Centennial, they'd have to wait a full another year to apply for the 9% tax credit for 55 and older. So I have received comments from the public that they would like to speak and questions. So what I'd like to do is allow the public to speak or answer their questions as the board, and then give final comments and directions to CRA staff whether to move forward with a letter of intent or an RFP by a motion. Does that sound okay?
Fine with me, Chair.
Yes.
All right. So Susan Oyer, I have you see your hand raised. I'm going to unmute, and you're able to speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Chairman Grant. Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I was looking at this last night, and I wanted to say I was distressed when I was looking at the first proposal from Centennial. First of all, I don't think any of you were talking about the danger of this looking like a monopoly and them getting a monopoly on all the development in the north end of town, and that worries me. I also am distressed because you all in the past have said you see green space when you're looking from Seacrest in the streets, and this puts 2 parking lots on 2 of the 4 streets, neither of which are an attractive look. This is not density compatible with the rest of this part of the neighborhood. And as Mayor Grant pointed out, each different part of this neighborhood is unique. As Commissioner Hay knows, this is his district. You can't compare subdivision areas with one another. They're all unique and different. And this would not fit in with what you all said you wanted, which was a cottage looking district. This doesn't cottage when you have a bunch of apartments. And yes, we do need housing for seniors, but this might not be the best possible location. I think what you're looking for is to have some workforce area housing that would come in that would be compatible in look and design, compatible in density, and be a nice transition piece between the areas south of Boynton Beach Boulevard as you're moving north. I will say I very much like the idea of option 2, Fox something. I think they did a great job of having workforce housing having 16 single-family homes, 28 townhomes. I think they are ticking off a lot of the boxes you all say you want in the past. They give you lots of green space. They give you a wonderful, attractive look from Seacrest and from the other streets. It fits in design-wise with the rest of the neighborhood, so the compatibility issue is there. I personally love the fact that there's lots of green space. There's a place for the kids to play. You're seeing the park when you are on Seacrest. You're not looking at a parking lot. They're going to be affordable, and they're going to give apprenticeships. We just had this discussion with the city with the development, and I believe this came up with ABM, that only 8 people out of the 100 applied were able to get jobs because they didn't have the skills needed. Here's your chance to tick off several boxes and get the people in the neighborhood who want the jobs, to get them the experience and the apprenticeships they need to be able to continue getting jobs to make the neighborhood better. So you're ticking off your equity box, you're ticking off your compatibility box, you're ticking off your architectural design compatibility box, you're ticking off your workforce housing box. I think, you know, and you're not looking like you're allowing yourselves to be bought out in a monopoly with Centennial, which is what this could end up looking like. I don't know anything about the third option, that Azure, but it looked like it was really pretty too. The one good thing I saw about Centennial's plan is they had a nice kind of meandering streets. The bad thing, of course, is when it goes up against my family's property, there's no physical barrier to keep people out. And I think there would need to be more of a physical barrier, which we've had this discussion in the past with Centennial. But those are my thoughts. I really think you should be looking at not Centennial, but looking at all the boxes that your second option, the Fox Company, they are ticking off all your boxes. And then you aren't looking like there's some kind of monopoly or something else going on that the public will perceive, because you will have handed multiple developments to the same developer as opposed to opening it up to a variety. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my opinion. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. And I have some questions from that I received from Abby Gleischer. I'm just going to read them off for the board for your information. Will any of the proposals include native trees, shrubs, plants to preserve Boynton's nature? Also, will we have safe bike pedestrian paths? How much are these various proposals going to cost a potential owner to purchase? Will there be safeguards to ensure diversity in the ownership, making sure all ethnic groups will be represented in this community? And Abby Gleischer also mentions, will board members request a different proposal, one with senior housing and single family homes? We have seen an insurgence of townhomes, condos, apartments in Boynton. Those types of housing increase traffic and stress of having many people in small areas. And her last comments is, will other proposals include apprenticeships? Apprenticeships are a wonderful opportunity for people in our community. So I guess, and I received a question and hand raised from Elizabeth Roque. If I allow her to speak, I would also give an opportunity for the other applicants to have another opportunity to speak. So I want to ask the board, do we want to continue this conversation? Do we want to move forward with a motion?
Chair, I'd be in favor of hearing what they would have to say after hearing the public comments and our comments as well.
And anyone else?
I concur with that. I would like.
Okay, we got 3. So Elizabeth, I'm going to unmute your microphone. It says you're self-muted.
Hi, how are you? Thank you again for allowing us to speak. I'd like to first address the comments regarding our site plan and parking on the streets. These are just proposals. And what we're offering based on the amount of square footage or acreage, right now we can do 108 elderly communities and 31 townhomes. we can obviously move the site plan around. We could do less townhomes, we could do single family homes. These are just trying to kind of meet the needs of what we felt were what the community, as far as the board was looking for, and where we felt there was a need with the elderly community. As far as trees and walkways and pathways, of course, we do a very nice landscaping package and are always open to suggestions as to what type of trees and walkways and bike paths and dog parks or whatever people are looking for. It's not our community, it's your community, and we just try to want to make it better and just bring it more life to your community is really what we're about. And we happen to be very successful at what we do, and we also right now with the state, we are in a position where most likely we will continue our success, and we're trying to bring that success to the city of Boynton Beach. We enjoy working at the city. Everyone has been amazing to work with, from the building department to the CRA to the board, and so we're not trying to monopolize anything. We're just trying to bring more benefits to the community and the city of Boynton Beach. And, you know, when we built Ocean Breeze and when we build MLK, our workforce, Sir Electric, is from Boynton Beach. Our plumbing, our Right Way Plumbing is from Boynton Beach. We have hired a lot of people from Boynton Beach, and we will continue to do that and make sure that whatever we do, we give the residents of Boynton Beach the opportunity to work and to be successful as well. Yeah. Oh,
Thank
and
you.
also, it's a 9% and a 4% we could go in for. And listen, if we don't win, then maybe put it out for an RFP, but at least give us the opportunity to try and see if we can't do something else and bring a lot of money to the city.
And we don't keep it; it goes to the project.
And again, and we don't keep that money. That goes to the project. That does not go into our pocket. Again, I'm just looking for the opportunity. This is not about us. It's about the city of Boynton Beach, and we happen to be very successful at what we do. And I feel very lucky to be able to put that success into the city of Boynton Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I'm going to unmute Grant Horwitz. It says that you're, yep.
So,
Can you hear you now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So, look, we appreciate the process that the board goes through. We've taken the time, so ours isn't necessarily a proposal. Ours, if the board would say, you've been awarded the contract, we're ready to go from an architectural perspective. We've got the site plan ready to go. We've got our plans for the buildings, for the units ready to go. We've taken the time, invested the time to do this prior to the process of an RFP. But if the board so chooses to go to an RFP process, we're comfortable with that, because we think that the process and the program that we're putting out will shine on its own. We also want to give the opportunity for home ownership to teachers and firefighters and police officers that don't often or don't always have the opportunity to buy new or housing in the desired developments or the desired area that they want to be in. At the price points that we're talking, probably is $260,000, $270,000. We think that this is a good price point for anybody who is aspiring to be a homeowner to be able to purchase a home. And we are open to, there will not be a set group of who it's going to be our buyers. It's going to be open to the community, and knowing Boynton, which is a diverse community, we welcome the diversity of everybody who wants to come and look at the houses and potentially be a buyer. So again, we appreciate your time, and we appreciate the feedback from yourselves and from the community, and we welcome the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. And so we're giving everyone an opportunity to speak. I don't think I saw anyone from Azure. And so now a decision from the board. I think we do need a motion and a second, whether to move forward with a RFP request and for staff to bring that back and include multifamily housing and elderly community in that RFP, so that we can have other people have an opportunity to bid on that as well, or do we want to do it just for for a cottage district with single family homes and townhomes, or do we want to exercise one of the letters of intent?
Mayor, I'll for discussion, I'll make a motion to have CRA staff engage Centennial, you know, and their letter of intent. If there's a second.
I will second that.
All right, so Mayor, do you mind if I go?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, the reason I'm inclined to go this direction is just because the success can't be ignored about their ability to secure that state tax funding. I think what that does is that it defers the cost that we have to ultimately pay if they were to not get any funding or any other applicant were to not get any funding. So it frees up CRA resources to build wealth in the community or do anything else at our discretion or a future board's discretion. I'm not against senior housing because I have a problem with seniors, obviously. I want to make that clear. My grandparents are old, my parents are old, I'm getting old, so I get it. I personally view that Boynton Beach has an abundance of 55 and older communities, even in prime locations that you could never find. You couldn't live on the intercoastal in many other cities in a 55 and older community, and we have it. So that's the crux of my tentative opposition, as I've expressed in the past, to age restricted housing. I'm not totally averse to it. I would like to not see it, but I'm not gonna necessarily scuttle a deal over it. I'm not overly concerned about Centennial securing multiple projects because they're doing what we want, and if we were to engage them on this, we would have an opportunity to shape the project that's being proposed, as both the applicants who spoke said, that these aren't proposals so much. These were concepts they put together subject to our ultimate discretion because they're either coming to us for CRA funds or they're going to be proposing for state credits. Yeah, I think that the value that Centennial brings is tremendous, and if they can secure those tax credits, it's literally worth millions in savings. As far as the apprenticeship prospect, I'm all in favor. We're in the process of discussing a potential, I guess ordinance, if you will, for the CRA to mandate certain things like that. We can certainly direct CRA staff, if they engage with Centennial, to include an apprenticeship, a local hire apprenticeship program. And I would wager that to secure this project, that's something they would be capable of doing. I don't want to be sold on any one group because of the apprenticeship thing, because I think we can, as a board, force anyone to do it. Anyone we engage, we can say, look, we need this, and if you're not interested, thank you for your time. We can move on to someone who is. So with that, I like the idea of getting in for the 9% tax credits in the short cycle of time we have, and if it falls through, depending on the terms of the agreement, that could open the door for other firms to re-engage us. And then just as a final note, I like townhouses. I've said that before. I think that they're a great way to get low cost, high square footage. If you try to get a 2,000 square foot house on a single family lot, the price is going to rise exponentially. A townhouse affords you that square footage vertically. I think 2 and 3 stories, as we've seen in some of the development, isn't necessarily offensive, I think, to most people. And the way that Centennial's project couched their elderly housing unit in the middle of the townhouses with them on the exterior, you wouldn't even notice that multi-story condo unit for elderly were there. If you look from the outside of the complex, you would just see the townhouses. So for all those reasons, like I said, I'm conflicted in not going to an RFP, but we've saved $30 million that can be spent elsewhere because of those tax credits that Centennial secured. So that's where I'm at right now.
All right. I'm in favor of the RFP. The aspect of putting multifamily there is not something I'm in favor of. I understand we, applying for the Florida Housing Finance Corporation's tax credits is a wonderful thing in the sense that we are getting money from the state to build subsidized housing. The issue that I have is that the Centennial's right. The project gets all of that funding. However, who owns the project? It's not anybody but Centennial. And that's the big concern that I have. The fact that they can put 31 townhomes and include the 108, it's that's a proposal. That's not guaranteed. And what happens when they say, "Oh, we're sorry, we only get the 108 and we don't get any townhomes"? It's nothing's. Are we going to turn away for that money? And then plus, is that what we really want? And do we want to have other opportunities for other people to bid? Because if we do the letter of intent, it makes it very difficult because our staff is already going to be in negotiations with Centennial, and they'll relay that information to anybody that wants that information. But I'm not in favor of the subsidized housing in that state subsidized housing in that block.
Chair.
And yes, Board Member Romulus.
Thank you. I'd like to weigh in here. So after hearing the discussions and hearing your point, Mayor, and also hearing Susan Oyer's points, this definitely does, trigger my memory in terms of where we wanted this parcel and in this area to go in the first place. And as attractive as Centennial's offer is, and which is why, I feel the same way as Board Member Katz, I was a little bit attracted to it simply because of the number of units. I think for me, that's the most attractive part of it. The fact that there are so many units that could be coming into that area and we could house that much more people. But then at the end of the day, what we originally said and what this community has asked us for years now, for decades really, is to have home ownership opportunities. And we've built a ton of apartment units. We've built hundreds of for rent units around the city. You can find them in multitude all around the city. But how much and how many opportunities have we had for a single family to come in here? And as much as it's attracting to see Centennial and their success and what they could potentially do in this area, I would like to lean more towards the opportunity of giving individuals and families that ability to own their own home and to say that this is mine, and to have that wealth building and legacy building opportunity in District 2. So with that being said, that's where I would be more in favor of leaning.
Mayor?
Yes.
I realize that this is not a proposal, and I like the idea of the apprenticeship program, but I don't feel that there's a monopoly here. In my past experience, I've been burned by that concept anyway of trying to spread the wealth and giving people who haven't had a chance the opportunity, and that's all well and good. But by the same token, you have those who have proven themselves to be able to deliver, and my thinking here, Centennial has done that. If they're talking about, again, it's not a proposal, but we realize that. But if they're talking about 31 town homes and 108 for the elderly and all that, I think they would be able to deliver that. I also am thinking about maybe the concept of splitting it up, having one developer to go for the interior where we have the townhomes and the interior, and on the outside another developer. I mean, they could share the units, and I think Centennial will still be able to go for the 9%. But here again, getting hung up on the 9%. I mean, that's millions of dollars coming to the city. I'm all for that. But by the same token, this property has been here for decades and decades and decades, and we've done nothing with it. So to wait another year to hit that cycle again is no big deal to me. So that I'm sort of oscillating here. I would like for Centennial to go ahead and try for that 9% this time if we can work it out somehow. That's where I am.
All right. And Vice Chair, do you have anything to weigh in before I call for a vote?
Yes, I'm as equally conflicted. I heard both parties say home ownership. The difference was townhomes versus single-family homes. And regarding the concerns that Ms. Oyer mentioned, again, these are just proposals, and these are all issues that could be addressed and will be addressed. Could we discuss what that would look like? Board Member Hay, you mentioned the possibility of splitting up this property. What would that look like in the future, and how would that affect application cycles, projects? I'm sure that could have a significant impact on what's being proposed, right? Because I think that might change everything.
Yeah, I think so. Mike, I don't know if I had the opportunity to discuss that with you, but you could probably articulate it a little bit better than I could. Would you make a stab at it?
Yes, sir. I think if time wasn't crunched, you could discuss with the city a replat of the entire property into 2 larger parcels, if that were supported by the city. The concept where you have that interior portion that could be the senior or multifamily to some scale, and then you could have the exterior portion be either townhouse or single family. I believe that process is somewhat lengthy. So, and I don't know what the requirements from Centennial's perspective. I don't know the exact documentation that they need in their application. So if you wanted to go that route, I think you would have to decide probably not to make this November's application for the 9%. And if this was really what you wanted to do, spend that time to divide the property up and replat it with some ability to produce both products. The CRA plan, while it's just a plan and it's just a vision, it's not the guiding code of ordinances or regulations that the city would be applying their land use and zoning to. If you wanted to entertain multifamily, I think at whatever point you agree that that's what you want as a portion or all, or the project appears would be a portion of the overall project, we would want to, and I'm sure the city would probably push hard to get us to have a few meetings with the community to make sure that our plan could be somewhat amended to accommodate the multifamily, because right now it is a multifamily zoning on the ground, right? That is the R2. It's not single family on the ground, but the plan recommends the single family replacing that multifamily. And I'm sure that they would want an exercise, if nothing else, to gain the support of the community for this new concept. And how that would affect the approval process of the replat and the application process, I would certainly imagine would be very tight for a November application.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
So I think you can explore more options, but if your time crunch is what it is, then it just kind of limits that ability, I think, if the application is the priority.
All right, I'll just end by saying that I'm in favor of giving Centennial a fighting chance at the state funding. If it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out, but I want to make sure that, if we're going to move forward with Centennial and they do receive state funding, if that magically all works out, that we continue with home ownership. And if there's a demand for senior housing, that it be met. So I think that's where I stand today.
All right. And so, as you were mentioning, Michael, that's going to be 130 units and 4 acres, or a little bit over 4 acres.
Yes, sir. That density is probably, it's a 20 unit acre max, I would think. You're not gonna, it's gonna be pushing it.
So, you know, unless we put it to mixed use medium, we're not going to have the density.
That's where I think that the tweaking of the number is going to have to be done with the city. Whether that's done in the next 30 days, it would be easy to do. But
so, is it even feasible for us to do the change of the future land use, change of the zoning, and within 30, 40,
Yeah.
you know, 30, 60 days?
Mayor, that's an
So,
excellent point.
yeah,
so
no, sir.
the fact that, you know, I have is that I'm in favor of, you know, moving forward with what the commission or the board's will.
Yes, sir.
It's that, you know, I believe with their application, they need the zoning in place, unless they, oh, you're shaking your head,
Yes,
yes.
sir. You do. The city's going to sign off that they are able to do what they are proposing. And the only way
And,
I could see Mike Rump doing that is if there's a formal process of approval. At this point, that's not likely, timing wise.
and that's the other aspect of it. So I'm okay if the will of the board is to have elderly homes. But the fact is that this wasn't in the plan. This wasn't in, you know, any of the aspect of it moving forward. You know, I wanted to also, you know, look up to see if anybody's received, you know, campaign donations from Centennial Management, and some of the board member has. And, you know, for me, it's not necessarily anything that I'm against, but I don't think this is the right way of going forward. I think we should issue the RFP, and if we want to have 130 units and 4.5 acres, that we really, you know, plan to have that in our future land use and zoning of that area, because that's not currently there. And so I don't want to give, you know, Centennial the option, and then they know they're going to fail because they can't get the zoning in time.
Mayor, I'd like some clarification on that, because if that's a problem, then it sounds like this is a moot point.
Yeah, I agree. If Mike Simon, the executive director, says that the processes to get to that 9% application can't reasonably be done, then, you know, I have no problem backtracking on that proposal. So, Mike, is that?
Yes, sir. I think that there's clear support, you know, in a way for both options, but you just don't have the timing on your side for an application in November, even if you loved it just as it is. I think it's just going to be very tight to get into a November. Ocean Breeze East, if you remember, we were on a similar time frame, almost identical to what's going on now. The difference was everything was in place to have Ocean Breeze and even MLK. You know, we're signing the agreement in September, October, and they're sending an application in November, December. That is not what could possibly happen now. I think to give fairness to the project, you're going to need to just allow a longer time period for that to develop. If you go that route, that's the only thing. You just miss one cycle.
With that being the case, I have no problem withdrawing my motion, but I will casually push back on any attempt to connect anyone's decisions up here to campaign contributions. I don't think anyone up here gives a damn about the people who contributed to their campaign to the effect that they would do something nefarious. So, you know, I think everyone who supported or opposed what's on the table explained and articulated their position. But with what the executive director said, and that's why I did ask whether or not the time frame for the percent tax credits was feasible, that is. But if you're saying the logistics to set that up in terms of our zoning and land use isn't, then I'll withdraw my motion and make a substitute motion to go to RFP. But again, I'll push back on that. I know it wasn't exactly going the way you wanted, Mayor, but pushing back on that.
It wasn't directed to anyone.
I'll make a substitute motion if someone tells me if Robert rules are in order, to go to RFP because the time frame might just be too tight to accomplish the original motion's intent.
Okay, and do we have a second for the motion for the RFP?
I will second, but may make a comment, Mayor?
Yeah, no, basically the main thing for the RFP versus last year is the aspect of multifamily and being, as we own the property, move forward with redoing the CRA plan and all the other types of comprehensive plans and land use to get the multifamily in that block. Or is it just, because it's not just an RFP, is that, are we looking forward for increased density in the heart of Boynton Beach in that location? Or, are we planning to do this for more of the heart of Boynton Beach if land banking is an opportunity?
Well, I guess we have to get clarification from the maker of the motion.
So my, regarding density, I guess over time and seeing what we've done and just philosophically, thinking about workforce housing and affordable housing, I guess I kind of harken back to a former commissioner, Commissioner Fitzpatrick, where I recall before I even got on the board, he kind of had the philosophy if the government was funding or subsidizing workforce or affordable housing, we should try to go for some degree of density versus single family, because you're not really getting, it's nice to build 20 single family houses, but that only helps 20 families. If you can build 100 affordable units, it helps 100. So I've philosophically come around to the idea that I'm not talking about packing people in like sardines, obviously, but when we build small quantities, it feels good, it does some good, but does 20 affordable housing units or 30 or 40 move the dial versus dozens or hundreds? So I'm not fundamentally opposed to being open to higher density. I'll wait to hear a little more from the rest of you, obviously, but I think if the ultimate goal is to try to help as many people as possible, detached single family units is in the opposite direction. That's why I like townhouses personally, because it's kind of it's a compromise. You get attached, but they're not stacked like condos.
Board, if I may make a suggestion, and Catherine, you can certainly chime in here. It would seem to me that the decision this evening is an RFP or not RFP, and if you decide on that, then what's in the RFP, it might not be something that you can decide specifically this evening to the point where these developers or people are supplying you with a letter of interest. We don't have the information from the city that either any of the three, from a density standpoint or what have you, is supportable by the city staff. So I think if you decide it's an RFP, then what would you like to see come back? A mix. You're open to people proposing a mix of things or only one thing. I think you can make it as open as you want in the RFP, but right now tonight you can't get specific enough on if that's a possibility. Is it 60 units and 20 houses? Is it 80 units and 13? I think it's too difficult for you to make a determination this evening on exactly how that would go, other than to make a decision on whether you want to accept, reject, or go RFP. That would probably be
what I would just add to what Mike is saying is to explain it less well, but maybe more quickly, is if you would make a motion to send this to an RFP with directions to your staff to bring back options for you to consider before you issue the final RFP.
Thank you.
That is my motion.
Chair,
I was
Yes,
stuck on that.
Board Member Romulus.
for clarification, what is the current zoning on the ground right now? Mike, what are we allowed to build as it stands right now?
It's zoned right now R2 with the ability to go to an IPUD. And I believe the max density is 11 and maybe up to 15 units an acre.
So what's
the
the
IPUD allows more units because you can, if you just go with the non-IPUD, you're subject to more rules and restrictions than if you create your own plan unit development. You're able to make lots smaller and do some things that you can't do under a regular residential zoning. So
with the IPUD, if we go that option, what does that allow us to build up to maximum?
well, the last time we met with the city on this, it was 35 units total. Single family, yes, not townhomes, but single
And
family.
no townhome option, no multifamily options are on the table as it is right now.
Correct. Townhomes is, homeownership townhome is, and a villa of some kind, a garden villa up to 2 stories or 3 stories, I believe was even the height. But currently now the contemplation of a multifamily development is not in our plan. And I would assume that somebody could push for the R2 zoning if they were able to buy it from an individual that wasn't a CRA.
what is the land use, or the future land use that we did within our Heart of Boynton Beach plan?
I believe we have the okay, we pull up the plan. The plan's opening now. I'd rather go ahead and answer you for specifics and rather than okay, here we go. Let's see. Okay, the recommended future land use would be mixed. Currently, it would sit, it's in brown right now, it's high density residential. Recommended land use for the Heart of Boynton district, that would be page 113 of the CRA plan. So as it sits, that's what is on the ground now or recommended in our plan. So it is
high density
HDR.
High density HDR is up to 15 units per acre.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's kind of where we'll have that in the RFP. When we finalize it, do we want to, as a CRA, request for different proposals, expanding the and be the applicant to change the land use and this future zoning?
You would get a 25% density bonus, obviously, for the workforce housing component, but.
Yeah.
I think you can classify that just as direction to staff to consider while drafting the RFP without amending the motion if you'd like.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that was the direction to staff. What exactly does the board want? Do they want to expand the current zoning capability, or it is, you know, the 15 units per acre, something we want to keep?
I'm open to flexibility personally.
Okay. I think that's more than enough.
Okay.
So, do we have anyone else that would like to chime in on the board? Okay. So you don't have direction. It's. I will go with expanding with the flexibility. So
Yes, sir.
that.
So board chair, you have a motion and a second.
All right. Is there any further discussion from the board?
Yes, would you repeat the motion?
Sure. The motion will be to have staff draft an RFP for the board's consideration for the next time, which also means that, you know, they'll be not rejecting, but not accepting the letters of interest at this time. So the actual motion is to direct staff to move forward with drafting options for an RFP.
All right. Seeing no more
That
further.
is board members Katz's motion still.
Correct, with it coming back to us for subject to our approval.
Yes.
All right. Seeing no more further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Hearing one, the motion passes 4-1. All right. Thank you very much for the discussion and for all the applicants for the letter of intent. And as I mentioned before, we are not in a cone of silence until the RFP is actually issued. So if you would like to speak with any of the board members, you have that time until an RFP is issued. All right. Going back to our regularly scheduled agenda, and I'd like to thank the board for allowing me to move this up ahead because I knew this was going to be a somewhat of a long item. We're moving on to consent agenda. I'd like to pull item B. My only comment is that instead of a proclamation for Carol Westmoreland in the city of Boynton Beach, we normally issue citations to people and do proclamations for events or other different,
Okay.
And so I'd like just to say that we have a citation in honor of Carol Westmoreland and for the appreciation that she's done for the Florida Redevelopment Agency.
Very good.
All right. So I can't rule on my own motion. So Vice Chair.
Yes, I move to make the citation for Carol Westmoreland.
Very good.
Thank you. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent agenda. The remainder of the consent agenda. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to CRA projects in progress. Our first one is the marketing and business promotions update.
Okay. Mercedes, would you or Tracy like to take that item? All right, that's okay. The information with the item, as is our update normally with marketing and business promotions, provides you, the board, and the public with a list of the social media campaigns that were launched in June, as well as our hard copy.
I got
yes.
Tracy unmuted, so.
Oh, very good. Thank you. I didn't want to delay. Thank you.
Tracy.
Hi, sorry about that. Tracy Smith Coffee, Marketing and Business Development. Right now, let me pull this up. The internet's kind of going in and out, so that's why Mercedes isn't on. So Good evening, board. As we continue to navigate through the COVID-19 pandemic, our business development team has continued to focus on efforts on promoting businesses located within the CRA area and encouraging residents to patronize them. On June 22nd, we launched the Like a Local social media campaign across our social media platforms. The campaign is being marketed as a contest, which is a fun way to promote the businesses while engaging our social media followers. The first phase of the campaign is focused on promoting the marine businesses that are located in the Boynton Harbor Marina. So this includes the boat and jet ski rentals, as well as fish and dive charters. In addition to spotlighting the businesses, the campaign also highlights any safety measures that have been implemented to protect patrons from the ongoing COVID-19 threat. We have been promoting the recreational activities that are available at the marina through a variety of digital and print advertisements, as well as business development videos. I will now, I'd like to go to our attachment number 3, John, if you could put that on the screen for them to see. And the first attachment is the Coastal Angler quarter-page ad, which reaches 40,000 in circulation, which if you go to Exhibit A, I'm sorry, right there. Okay, then scroll down to Exhibit B, which is the neighborhood news ad, and that is a full-page ad that reaches out to the Western community of 17,500 homes, and it's also being displayed on their social media Facebook page, which reaches 10,000 followers. And if you go to Exhibit C, which is the Atlantic Currents magazine, that reaches our younger demographic, and it's with a featuring of all of the listings of the marina businesses. And then if you go to Exhibit D, which is our Coastal Star half-page ad, which also features all of the businesses in the marina, and that is reaches 17,000 homes. So we also have, if you hold on, in the beginning of July, we distributed our summer issue of the Redevelopment Works newsletter on our social media and then to our email subscriber list. The newsletter featured an update on the town square, Ocean Breeze East project, as well as a feature of some of the businesses that were assisted by the Small Business Disaster Relief Forgivable Loan Program. And our Hit the Biz section also featured a spotlight on 4 new businesses to the CRA area, which is Found at Sea, which is one of our fishing charters in the marina, Alpha Pizzeria, Tokyo Ramen, and Organic Kitchen and Mercantile. The newsletter also included an announcement for the re-election of Vice Chair Pensurga and Board Member Hay. Do you have any questions?
I just would like to make a note that I went to Tokyo Ramen and it was delicious. And you know, I've you know, not to say that no one else is delicious. You know, I've been to Del Sol Bakery. That's more a Jamaican cuisine, and multiple other of our restaurants in our CRA. And I encourage both the board and all of our people listening to help the businesses there. You know, most of them have the capability for takeout, as COVID-19 is still a dangerous disease, and we still, you know, we're not going to have another grant or forgivable loan. coming up. So it's up to us to support the businesses we want to see here when we want to see them. So thank you, Tracy, for all that you do of letting everyone else know.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
All right. Our next item is 12B, Social Media Outreach Program, third quarterly report. I'm going to unmute Renee.
Renee Roberts, Boynton Beach Social Media and Communications Specialist. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. This quarter, there were 82 businesses currently registered in our SMOP program. 3 new businesses have been added, and 140 total businesses have been visited within our district since the inception of the program. You can go to the next slide. The business development team has been working to creatively engage our community through social media during the COVID-19 pandemic to help to support our local businesses. Our Carry Out and Carry On campaign concluded in June. This campaign helped to raise awareness of our CRA district restaurants that were open for takeout during Governor DeSantis' Safer at Home executive order. The campaign used both paid and organic posts, and it resulted in reaching over 17,000 users and engaged more than 500 via the CRA's social media pages. You can go to the next slide. As mentioned by Tracy, the Like a Local campaign is now active and is designed to assist in promoting the Boynton Harbor Marina businesses that have been allowed to reopen as a part of Phase 1 guidelines. The campaign is using both paid and organic posts. Within the first 2 weeks of the campaign, it has reached over 2,000 individuals and engaged more than 50 of our audience. Next slide. The CRA has utilized its blog platform to aid local businesses with web search engine optimization and to provide awareness to the Boynton Beach community about local businesses. This quarter, we featured Common Grounds, Troy's Barbecue, Driftwood, That's Amore, Slovaki Fast, Cafe Frankie's, Hurricane Alley, Fly and Flow Fitness, Boynton Beach Dive Center, and Anchors Away Travel, as well as a complete listing of district restaurants that have reopened as a part of Phase 1. Next slide. The SMOP program has continued one-on-one social media assistance to our local businesses. I assisted Tokyo Ramen in setting up their business Facebook page, Instagram, website, and their Google listing, as well as visiting their location to assist in taking photos that they can use across all their platforms to help promote their newly opened business. Next slide. Four Wheel Services recently redesigned their website, and I assisted them in setting up a reoccurring Facebook and Instagram ads to help direct their audience to their new website, which features information on their fishing reel repair, as well as a new online shopping feature for their parts and merchandise. Next slide. The CRA promoted newly opened businesses in our district, including Organic Kitchen and Mercantile, Alpha Pizzeria, Tokyo Ramen, The Shack by the Tracks, Found at Sea, and Artsy Living's new location via Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you all for your time tonight, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Renee.
Thank you. All right. Is there any questions from the board? Seeing none, moving on to CRA's COVID-19 commercial rent reimbursement 6-month extension recap. Bonnie, I believe.
Good evening, board. Oh, yes. Good evening, board. Bonnie Nicklin, Administrative Services and Grants Manager. This is a brief overview of the COVID-19 commercial rent reimbursement grant. As of today, 40 of the 44 eligible businesses have applied for and received the rental assistance. The last month of the 6-month reimbursement eligibility is next month. So it's been great assistance. The appreciation is deeply felt. So they've been sharing their thanks with you, me to share with you.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, CRA Economic and Business Development Grant Program update.
Good evening again, Bonnie Nicklin. This is an overview of the regular CRA Economic Development Grant Programs. We currently have approximately $141,500 left for the remainder of the fiscal year. We had one new application on tonight's agendas for property improvements to the facade of the Inlet Inn Motel, which is located at 1900 North Federal Highway. I continue meeting with new businesses and look forward to presenting those applications in the coming months. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, moving on to Ocean Breeze East Affordable Multifamily Rental Apartment Project Update.
Yes, Board. This is just our monthly update of the Ocean Breeze East project, which is the 123 unit affordable multifamily rental project at 700 North Seacrest Boulevard. John, we have some pictures of the progress. I don't know if Centennial is still on the line, if they want to provide anything as far as an update on timelines. If not, then really it's an update on the progress photos and the encouraging pace that they're going on today.
Mr. Simon?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a updated date of completion?
Yes, I was just thinking about that myself. I believe that they are going to be putting in drywall, according to Twee's conversation with the contractor. They should begin that at in August, September. They are still on target for the December, January completion.
Okay.
Which is really only about 4 or 5 months from now. So
right.
It's fabulous. Yes, sir.
Excellent news.
And Michael, our neighborhood officer program, my question is that who will be putting the money for that space? Is that something that Ocean Breeze East Apartments is going to do? Or is that something that we as a CRA are going to have to fund all of the security and computer?
Yes, sir. I believe we are going to have to fund that. I can clarify that with Centennial, but as of the kind of the initial part of the project, when we discussed that, they were going to give us a shell with drywall, what have you, but the interior build out as it's finished would be the responsibility of us or the police department.
All right.
So I'll confirm that with them.
I heard someone say my name.
Mayor, this is Twee. I unmuted myself, but if you go to the last slide, that is where the neighborhood officer space will be. And I wish Elizabeth was here to describe more, but they'll probably have the drywall and everything, but the furnishings and everything will probably be done by us. That will be where the neighborhood officer police will be housed.
Okay. And so what is the square footage?
I think approximately 2,000.
Wow. So that's I guess, is that something that we're going to discuss?
Yeah.
It's a little under. There'll be ability to hold meetings and what have you there, as well as I think you remember Elizabeth offered their community room within their clubhouse for things that take more than the building can hold.
The previous slides above that will be the clubhouse. So if you go up to John, if you can move up, that's really the part with the tray ceiling. That's the clubhouse that they're starting to put the interior partitions in.
Okay. And so I'm going to ask our attorney to double check to see the language, whether it was just space or what exactly the language was for the neighborhood officer program.
Absolutely. Look at that and get back to you.
And also, Michael and Twee, could you let them know that they forgot to file their annual report for Ocean Breeze East Apartments?
Yes.
And so, Ocean Breeze manager is the company that manages the Ocean Breeze East Apartments, but they forgot to file that annual report that I noticed while looking them up.
Very good.
And is there any other questions from the board regarding the update?
Not for me.
Okay. And I like to say that, yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm looking forward to a transparent information about, you know, the applications, because they received a lot of information, a lot of pre-interest. And so, you know, the point is that we want to make sure that the space is representative of the community, and so, because if we need to make any changes, we can for the Wells Landing project.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next, moving on to the model block affordable single-family home ownership project update.
Tweety, you want to take that?
Sure, of course. Good evening, board chair and board members. As of July 2nd, you could see, John, if you could go to, yeah, thank you. I didn't see that. But as you can see, they're moving along very quickly. The Habitat homes are the homes that you're seeing in the pictures now. They have gotten the sidewalks and the driveway, and then they've started painting the front and the back. So 3 of the 5 Habitat homes are dried in completely with windows and doors, and the exterior is being finished. The other 2, they're working on some grading, and I believe they're still in permitting. This is the, I believe it's the first, actually the last of the Habitat home. So the next few slides will show the CDC homes, 2 out of the 5. This is the rear of the Habitat homes, by the way. Those are the 2 that are being worked on the site as they're waiting permits for the Habitat. And this starts the CDC homes behind the storage container there. You can see where the pickup truck is, and the 2 homes there. They're getting dried in, and the shingles are being installed right now as we speak. So 2 out of their 5 homes are dried in.
That's great.
And that's the side of the CDC home. That's looking east at the CDC homes and their work on the roof. So we've provided, as directed by the board, the contact information for the 2 organizations. If there's interested parties from the neighborhood or from different residents with respect to their programs. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tweety.
Thank you. Next is the Palm Beach County Housing Authority project update.
Yes, Ward, this is an update that has a little bit more activity than previous updates. Lori Laviere, the city manager, and myself met with Ms. Jones Gilbert, who is the executive director of the Palm Beach County Housing Authority, their board chair, and their chief development officer on July 9th. We held a virtual meeting to discuss the status and the disposition of the lots that they own in Cherry Hill, the vacant lots there that we've been attempting to discuss possible acquisition or the assistance with them to create homeownership opportunities within the heart of Boynton. As of the meeting, they were informing us that they are meeting with their HUD advisors for technical assistance on July 15th. So tomorrow they're going down to Miami. They are actively seeking assistance from HUD for the disposal of a variety of properties, mostly single family scattered site parcels, to get rid of those and take the money from those properties so that they can focus their attention on building multifamily affordable units under their management. So we left the meeting with them reassuring us that they are interested in having a positive outcome here where we can work together on home ownership, and that they would keep us posted throughout the process with HUD on how we would obtain those lots if and when that can happen. But we'll continue to file that back with you in the weeks to come.
All right, thank you. I noticed that you're going to have they're having a meeting on July 15th, and so hopefully we'll hear back before our next
Yes.
agenda meeting their response, and hopefully it'll be positive. If it is not, I think we as the CRA board need to send out another letter, whether it be directly to the Department of HUD Director, Ben Carson, the organizer or the department director in Atlanta, the governor who oversees the board for the Palm Beach County Housing Authority. But it's been a year, and we are nowhere closer than where we started before, in the sense is that they're going to a meeting to discuss it. And then that leads us to the other question after we had the discussion in the cottage district. Are we willing to expand those single family homes and those R2 units for higher density? Is that something that the board would like to, after obtaining the properties or allowing the Palm Beach County Housing Authority to work with them to increase density in the Cherry Hill area? And so I'm not hearing anything, so I guess they're not.
Is that a discussion we need to have now, Mayor?
I think it's not a discussion we need to have now. I think it's something that we do need to discuss depending on next meeting, though, for everyone to think, is that, what is our vision for the heart of Boynton? And do we want to expand the affordable housing and the higher density that comes with the subsidized model through state funding?
Okay. I'd like to reach out to some people in the community first before I engage in that conversation.
Yes, sir. It's also, it's our understanding from several questions that I posed to Ms. Gilbert that they most likely would be disposing of and selling these parcels. So whether it would be us or some other development type entity for affordable housing, it appears.
And they froze.
All right. Tweet?
Liquidate and get out of that, the home ownership aspect. So if that's any help to the board on those decisions, it hopefully would be someone else's, ours or another entity.
Okay.
But I'm going to meet with the city and find out what kind of density we could get if you wanted to put townhomes or villas there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
We have no public hearing. Moving on to the old business, discussion of consideration and discussion of fiscal year 2021 project fund budget. So Bonnie, I heard you're going to have the Excel spreadsheet for us.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's pull that up.
All right.
I'm loading that right now.
And I'll ask the board if the way we've done it in the past in regards to funding, having just a snake sort of discussion that, people, if something wants to be changed, do that. Don't necessarily change someone else's. And then as we dwindle down to $0 left, figure out what we want to do. And when we get to the CRA advisory board, I'll make a motion to put something on their agenda regarding our budget.
Bonnie, this is John. Can you take it from there? Perfect.
Great. Well, board, what's in front of you this evening is a live spreadsheet simply for your use to distribute or allocate the remainder of the allocation to the CRA beginning October 1st through September 30, 2021. Staff, as we have done in the past, has attempted to propose or provide some direction, recommendation with the allocation in the green column. The orange or slightly red column is what money is available as of today that has not been spent that would roll over unless otherwise directed by the board, would roll over in these same line items, which is the blue column. So as we look at an item, for instance, the Boynton Beach Boulevard Streetscape project, you know that we have discussed in the past our funding that will be due in 2020-23 fiscal year. The board has began to save money, if you will, or put aside money. So that blue column shows you right, your balance as you add money to it. So currently, without adding any of the recommendation, you have $250,000 in that line item, and you spent $250 this fiscal year for the design match for the grant that we're getting from the FLAP program.
Okay. Bonnie, do you have the control?
Yes.
Okay. And can you scroll down a little bit more? So it's saying that we only have 15,650 remaining.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess
that's partly because the final budget from the NOP program was less than originally put into the backup. That was changed today from 532,000 down to 529. And we also decreased what is required from Centennial. As of today, about 5 o'clock, we found out that it was a little bit less. So we have 625, 750 instead of what you'll see in the backup, which was 637, 500. So that's where that's why I haven't had a chance to adjust that since learning that this afternoon.
okay.
And I can go down the list, or you can take that control, board chair, whichever you'd like to do.
No, I'm gonna go with board member Katz. If there's any changes that he would like to make to the budget, or have an idea where to put the extra $15,650.
I mean, I'm satisfied with what's before us. I guess it's only 15 grand, but I always say any money we can throw towards that future Boynton Beach Boulevard project to try to gift to whoever's going to be up here when they get a chance to actually do that, I'd put that money towards that.
All right. And then Commissioner Hay, do you have any other discussions?
Yes, I do have some discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We've spent over $1 million plus on the Sarah Sam Park, making it beautiful, and it really looks good. But a pet peeve of mine and the community, I'm still getting calls about it, is putting that stage in. And the last I heard, it was like 25 to 35,000. Michael, you can chime in at any time to do that. And I don't think we, there's a lot of goodwill that could come out of this. As I look at this budget, we could take, for example, I'm looking down at the is it line 19 where you talk about the demolition and all that. I can hardly. But my point, let me make my point is that we could get a lot of goodwill out of the community if we as a board would just do that. I mean, we built this masterpiece that everybody's proud of it, and just a little thorn in the side is what I see with the lack of that stage. And it wouldn't cost. I look at the orange columns you call it, the funds that are left over. We could redistribute some of those monies to just take care of that, and it would go a long way in the community to make that park jam up. That's that's something that I would just love to see, as well as many people in the community. So whatever we can do here, as we look at this thing, let's take a realistic look at the monies that we could redistribute to make that happen. That's where I am. And as I look, what is the demolition here?
Yes, sir. You have
right?
the site work and demolition line. You have the women's club line. You could take some as a board.
Some of these projects, my colleagues, my friends, we could back them up a little bit, or take a little from here and a little from there to make this happen. And I would just, I don't know how to say it, but except that it would make a lot of people happy if we could do that, is to put that stage there. Because right now, as I see people using that thing and they bringing their own stage, I mean, there shouldn't be a liability because they don't always put up their stage securely. But if we had just a solid concrete or whatever, like we had before, and like we're putting in at the Times Square, it would make all the difference. And I can't re-emphasize enough the goodwill that we would get out of doing something like that. I hope you hear me and feel me.
All right, our next speaker would be Board Member Romulus.
Thank you, Chair. I took some time to go over the budget with Mike Simon, and for me, most of my concerns have been addressed. I'm really just, again, astounded by what we were able to do in this past few months, past few weeks, with everything happening with COVID to help our local CRA businesses. We definitely got a lot of accolades for that. And I would definitely support Board Member Hayes' request and asking for us to find ways to allocate funding towards the improvement of that amphitheater or that performance pavilion, as it's been called, and other things, to really, again, make sure that what we promised and what we delivered match up in District 2. So as we look at some of these funds and places where perhaps there's some wiggle room, there is potential and there is a possibility to do that. So I would definitely be in support of that move.
Okay. Vice Chair?
Yes, Board Member Hay, you should be happy to know that I fully support you as well. I know that this has been a sticking point for many people in that area. And the reality is we're not having events because of everything that's happening in the world. And so I know you mentioned demolition, but I think we can find plenty of little sources here and there without making a significant dent. But we should also keep in mind that part of the budget includes Blarney Bash, and it's possible that things will get better and we may have a Blarney Bash. But even if we did have a Blarney Bash, I bet it will not be to the same level or to the same extent as previous years. So I really think a cement stage, if it's going to make all the difference in the world to those neighborhoods, why not do it? It's cement and we can't afford it. So in terms of all the other items in the project, I'm generally in agreement. I think that if we do find significant funding, let's say, for example, Blarney doesn't happen or something else doesn't happen, then I would like that we devote more attention to there are economic redevelopment grants. We know that these are quite popular, and so this will always be a good thing and it's always being used. So with the exception of that, I don't think I really have too much to change on the budget. This is a great starting point. So thank you, Mike Simon and staff, for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So first off, I definitely agree that we need to spend more money in the heart of Boynton Beach. The fact is that I have a different approach. I think that something that I was talking about a couple years ago is that we need to have lights at the Denson pool. Basically, the hours are cut short in the winter, and during the summer they're also cut short. I think that is something that the community needs, especially now because it is a gathering place that people can still go as outdoor. In addition, the other place that would need light is the Galaxy ballpark, and hopefully changing that upland preserve into more of a community walk. I was able to go with South Florida Water Management District and the Galaxy School children to do a walk around, and I think it's something that Nature Walk, ever since Mangrove Park was taken away, I think we do need to have a nature walk in the heart of Boynton Beach, and having the lights there will definitely allow the programming for that ball field, and especially bring baseball back to the heart of Boynton. There was comments yesterday that baseball is dying. Christina, I think you will agree with me that after doing the opening pitch for the East Boynton Beach Little League, that it is not dying, that there was hundreds and hundreds of kids that were there, and I'm glad to support baseball in the city and in the CRA.
100%.
The other aspect is we were fortunate that that Community Greening received a grant from community partners, and they were able to give out a lot of trees for the community. They were able to plant a fruit forest. The issue becomes is that they did not receive that grant this year. And I'd also like to put, that 15-20,000 into the tree canopy for the CRA district. Because it is the CRA district, it can only go to the residential properties in the CRA, but it's also can go into the different parks and city owned lands as well. And I think that is something that we need to do, because urban canopies only help everybody and makes it more sustainable. The aspect of where to take funds, I didn't see Pirate Fest in the business promotions and events budget. Did I miss that?
No, sir. Based on the COVID-19 situation and the process, being able to provide the public with any sense of safety or be able to get a plan approved through the state for that type of an event, I think is kind of out of the question at this point. So we proposed a budget for you that it took out that event, which is about a $350,000, $370,000 event, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're proposing, the budget without that in it. Yes, sir.
And I also saw you took out the Lionfish Derby.
We did. Again, I believe that the funding really was just trying to gear a cutback in some way without giving up some of the other things that we're doing. But we can certainly put that back in, or take away Blarney and do the marina event again in July. That would be fine. That's up to the board, certainly.
I'd like to take the money from the commercial economic redevelopment grants.
Okay.
Because this is bringing people to all the businesses we've already give them the economic development grants, and that's something that I'd like to do, and speak about. I understand we have the discussions regarding improvements within the heart of Boynton on city-owned property. I'd like to get that formal request for the dollar amount, because if we do put the concrete platform in, it will need to be ADA accessible. And I remember in the previous one we had an elevator ramp, and that costs a lot of money. The two events that I've been to where people put in their own stage, it was never an issue. It was never a problem. And I think that is the way that it should be moving forward, because it was an easy put up and take down, and that's kind of where my thing is that I understand that the community feels that being 2 foot higher makes a difference. But it's that permanent aspect of it and the cost where I feel the money would be better used for the pool, for the trees, for the ball field, because we will, the city will be liable if somebody falls off that platform, whether it's on their own or whether it's at fault. We're responsible for 200,000. The city is responsible for $200,000 of that damage, and that's one of the main reasons why the city decided not to do that. That's me as a lawyer. It's kind of like if we don't put enough safety mechanisms around that platform, the city will be liable, and that's something that I'll ask Catherine. I know you don't have an answer right now regarding municipal liability for negligence, but what is actually required to make it safe versus the temporary one that someone else put in?
Chair?
Yeah.
I understand that there are, and you just stated, there are a lot of needs in District 2. I agree with what you're saying. The galaxy lights and the trees and all of those things are really needed. But I think we'll get the biggest bang for our bucks and the greatest recognition and the greatest support is by going with the Sarah Sims improvement. I do feel that as I listen to the voice of the committee, of the community, this is what they're saying, especially looking at another amphitheater going up with the stage. And here again, I hear what you're saying, but the liability is there one way or the other, whether it be with the stage or the equipment. I've been at some of those activities too, and they were shaky. There were some that were good and there were some that were not good. The last one didn't have a stage, and everybody was not wearing a mask. And I, for one, made my cameo appearance and disappeared because a lot of people were yelling and screaming without masks, and I just can't take that chance. So I just feel that yes, there are a lot of needs. The priorities that I see based upon what I hear from the community is just to fix that one little item to make that project just absolutely perfect. And I just feel that we should go in that direction and take care of those other things as we can. But my priority is to take care of the Sarah Sims, to lock that up, jam it up, make it the perfect park that it should be.
All right.
Chair,
Yes.
do we have some sort of estimates for these things that we're talking about? Because we're making it sound like you can either have this or that, but could we have, these things in phases or in piecemeal? Is that an option?
I think it's something that we can relate to the CRA advisory board and have that numbers for them when it comes out, and to see if they are in agreement with what we're saying or if they have their own ideas.
Chair?
Yeah.
I do feel that we've talked about this enough that our executive director can tell us a ballpark figure of how much that is going to cost. And I think he can do that right now. Am I not mistaken, Mike Simon?
I believe that the number, when we discussed it last year, as we were getting the complaints about the amphitheater height, was in the range. There were some solutions. There was a varying range of solutions between $25,000 and $40,000, I believe. I don't believe it was above 50, but I think if it's under 50, there's certainly money that can be found. I'd like the opportunity to speak with Colin and Andrew about honing in on a number that maybe they've had some second thoughts on different ways to do it since then. But it was definitely in the range of that 35 to 40, if I remember correctly. And I don't have any idea about the lights for Denson Pool or Galaxy Park, as far as what those light poles cost or what it would take to light it sufficiently or to add lighting, and then how would we phase that? So I need some opportunity to come back to the board with just how much that is going to cost. The other item that was brought up in the past with the MLK corridor was attempting to provide funding or deciding whether or not to provide funding to add units to the MLK corridor project as it stands now. We were given some information again around 5 o'clock today about what that might cost if the board was interested in adding 8 units roughly. So if you want to have that discussion, I can certainly go further with it. But if you're not interested in that, then there's no point in going into detail.
Yeah, I'm interested in adding more units to the Wells Landing project. I don't know if anyone else wants to reply yay or nay to that.
It's a yay.
I'm also interested in adding more units.
Okay.
But let me just say this, that I believe the reason that Mike was able to state those figures just then, because this is an item that's been around for a while, and it's nothing new. Whereas we're going almost looking for a new item that we haven't had the opportunity to research and discuss, which I have no problems with, because they all need to be done. But here again, this is an item that has been around, that we have an opportunity to resolve, and I just think would be in the best interest of the city and District 2 in particular, but for the city as a whole to move in that direction with that stage. But I would like to have the additional units on MIK.
Okay, board. Having said that, it sounds like there's enough interest to at least put out your options for that. The Centennial, and I would certainly provide more detail for the public and the board at the next meeting, but the estimate from Centennial was about $1.2 million for the 8 units, and they can take that in a payment and apply it to their project overall, or they could do it in a 15-year payment. So you either have kind of a lump sum of $1.2 million, or they're providing an option somewhere between $63,000 and $65,000 a year for 15 years. So if you wanted to do a payment, if you will, or a debt type of a situation, you could not liquidate all of your corridor money this fiscal year for those units. So they're willing to work with us.
I'd like to, I know that it's on the future agenda to talk about the MLK project, but if the board is willing, we could speak at that at the end of the discussion before we move on to adjournment.
Okay.
If the board's willing to do that for the MLK project.
Sure.
And Bonnie, I want to know if you could do me a favor. Can you the allocation total is $4,869,242. I'm sorry, I got it. So that's the money that we're dealing with. And I know sometimes we end up getting additional money in between July and August when they do revise updates. And so I would like to propose that the extra allocation of the 15,000 goes into dealing with the landscape company for sustainability in the Boynton Beach. I think that's my computer. Vice Chair.
Mayor, after you're finished, I was listening to what Commissioner Hayes said, and I have to agree this whole stage topic has dragged on for way too long. And I'd like for something to happen tonight specifically so we can, finally come to a conclusion. So if we can find some funds tonight, I would like to see some of that allocated tonight.
Absolutely. I proposed the economic development grants. We've given out $1 million plus this past year, for the COVID. And I think that's kind of where the CRA needs to realize that we need to, if we're trying to build infrastructure, if we're trying to build land banking, the next year, it might be extremely hard to entice new businesses coming in. That's where I'll propose the 50,000 comes from.
Okay.
Thank you. Have we put that in the form of a motion?
I think we just need consensus.
Okay.
Because we're not approving the final motion tonight. This is more of a consensus, and that the CRA advisory board will review and make any adjustments or comments and recommendations to us, and then at the next meeting we'll have more of a final motion to approve, so that our finance director can put out that information.
Okay.
Board Chair, for Lionfish Derby, we're looking at approximately addition of $25,000 if you leave the rest of the items in the proposed event budget as is.
I'd like to put it in there because I'm a diver, and so I don't know necessarily it is something
It was a good event.
And for me in the sustainability, learning about lionfish ahead of time, it was the reason why I wanted to have that event. We caught 500 lionfish in 3 or 4 hours.
It was a lot, yes, sir.
And that's because the humans are the only predator for this fish. Mm-hmm. Invasive species destroy our environment, and so it's the human's fault. It's the human's fault that they're here in the Atlantic and the Caribbean, and we're the only ones that are going to be able to solve that. So with the request of the board, I'd like to have that event, if possible, again in June, and hopefully the times will change.
Okay.
I would be in favor of that. Safety plan included, under the condition that things do get better.
So would I.
Same.
All right, thank you.
I think Romulus had something.
Yep, she agreed.
Board members, I have been trying to communicate with Assistant City Manager Colin Groff, who has just informed me that the city is attempting to find the solution and the funding for the solution in their budget this year or before. So we can report back to you, at the next meeting with an affirmative confirmation on that.
Okay.
But as of now, you have it coming from the economic development grants.
All right.
So board, as of right now, we have kind of on the table discussion about lighting for Denson Pool and Galaxy Park, tree canopy improvements in some form or fashion, the Lionfish Derby additional event, and potentially $50,000 for the amphitheater. Is there anything else that did I miss anything that would be going in front of the CRAB board for discussion, to add or subtract from what they see now?
Oh, thank you. And if not, I'm going to open it up to public comments as well. All right. Ms. Hoyer, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Susan Oyer, 140 Southeast 27th Way. I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but what about Earth Day or some kind of event at Sarah Sims again that you could combine with the stage reopening and tree giveaway? I know at the last Earth Day event, I was out working at the Sustainability Board, and I think we were all shocked, or I'm wrong, my mistake, it was the MLK event. We were all shocked at how many people above a certain age had no education about global warming, climate mitigation, anything that was going on. We found all the younger kids, the younger people, I would say about age 20 and under, 25 and under, all were very aware, but no one over their mid to late 20s had any idea about global warming. And I think maybe we should consider doing an educational focus with the trees and with the opening, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? For the stage reopening. Maybe that's something we could look at, having some kind of small event, nothing overly expensive, but maybe combining a few things that way. And it would be great outreach to the community. And it's not a racial issue as much as it's an age issue. And getting information out to everyone over about age 25 or so that everyone can understand the importance of planting the trees and why we're doing it, and how our city is a leader in sustainability in the United States. Our city is a leader in attacking global warming. So I would suggest something along those lines. Thank you for your consideration.
And I don't see anyone else raising their hands. Let me go look back at the marketing budget. I think that's something more for the city to handle. You know, the fact with Sarah Sims is that there is no commercial activity there. It is strictly a municipal owned property. So that's something that I don't necessarily know if they're planning to bring in businesses for those types of events. I think it's one thing, but if we're not having businesses and it's more of an educational, it's not necessarily within the CRA purview. But one of the things that I forgot that I was thinking about was the home-based businesses within the CRA and within the within the city. It's kind of like having, with Pirate Fest, we used to have a CRA corridor, but it was open up to other businesses as well. And so that's something that I'd like to have it. Sarah Sims is more of a small business, kind of our home-based business event, to see if there's any sort of interest in doing that. However, I don't think it's for this year and this year's budget, but I think it will hopefully be for next year's budget that we have, we do help do the marketing, and whether that's Sarah Sims or our new downtown green space. And so that's it. I know that the CRA is not doing the Christmas tree lighting this year, and that the city is taking over. And I understand that that is also not a business aspect. We can try to create a nexus for it. Go ahead.
Well, board, we do have money in the promotional event budget for lights, not the a Christmas tree per se, but in past years that we've moved this to Dewey Park, there's been a great support by the board and I think the community in having lights in those trees in Dewey Park, if nothing else, for the benefit of the businesses around Dewey Park and perhaps even some safety measures during the holidays. So we do have, we wouldn't recommend doing a light the park kind of thing where we do with the holiday and the light switch and all the people, but we did put $17,000 in that budget so that we could provide that festive lighting in the trees during that time period.
I mean, the question is that it's not permanent and it's not an event. So I don't think putting lights up in a tree for a non-event is within the CRA's purview, though. I'd like to, I mean,
I
and
guess I'm looking at it as the lights that were in there weren't for the event of the light switch turning on the lights. The nexus for putting the lights in the trees was to aid the local businesses in that area by having a more attractive area for patrons to go. So just from the past, I think we're covered there, but that was the only reason that we have it. That 17,000 can come out and go into another line for sure.
Yeah, I'd like to put
great.
that money elsewhere.
Okay.
You know, it's, you know, if I like to do more permanent things with the money than the temporary thing, especially if we're going to have Christmas lights 2 or 3 blocks to the west.
Great. Yes, sir. We can use some of that 17 to the 25 for lionfish.
All right. And Board Member Hay?
I would agree with what you're saying, and I do agree with what you're saying, but there is value in bringing lighting to our so-called part of our downtown area. I go back to Renaissance Common when they were building that. Many of you weren't around in terms of the city, but one of the questions they asked was how can we make it more attractive? And as a commissioner, I told them you got to light it up, because when you light things up, it draws attention. And when you ride down US 1, I go back to that again, and I see the lighting, whether it be in Boca, Delray, but when I get to Boynton, it's dull. I think that having those lights there, whether you turn them on 24/7 or every 365 days a week, but I think we need to bring more light into the downtown area. It draws attention to the surrounding businesses, and I think there's a lot of value in that. Sure, we could spend it other places that's where needed, but I think again there's a positive impact there to bringing that lighting to Dewey Park. I just think we need to not just write it off. And I'd like to hear what the rest of the board members feel about that.
My first comment is that I think we should spread the wealth. And one of the major things that would happen when I was walking on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is that the CRA used to put lights there. And if anything area needs more lights, I think it's Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And that's where I would propose we spend the money to put lights for the holidays.
I'm not going to argue with that. You know, definitely we need lighting there too.
Chair?
Yeah.
I just want to try to get a better understanding of what you're proposing. Do you want another tree lit up along in that area, or do you mean like put them on poles or some other format?
It's you know, request FPL to allow us to light up all of the poles there.
Okay.
But you know, I'm not necessarily in favor of the temporary lights. I'm more in favor of permanent action. So that was my statement. I personally don't think the short-term benefit for the winter months, the lights, where we're asking for permanent lights at Denson Pool and Galaxy Scrub, where that's not just, you know, those can be used the 24/7 or I'm sorry, the 365 that Woodrow was mentioning. I think we need to build more of the infrastructure within the heart of Boynton Beach, rather than just give that, provide lights during certain times of the year.
I agree. Yes, sir. I agree.
Well,
I agree with that.
and so
No
that's
argument
kind of
on that.
that's kind of where I'm thinking that.
Yeah.
We
Mayor,
only,
I support you. I mean, permanent lighting is obviously better.
Yes, sir.
Believe me, I have areas in my district that's very dark, and so I talk about Minor Road all the time, and I'm totally with you. I just wish we didn't have to cut out, that's the next best thing we have to a Christmas tree. And if there was a way to keep it on or do both, I would prefer. I'm sorry, Mr. Simon, did you want to chime in?
I believe that the city budget last evening contemplated the expense of a Christmas tree in the new town square. So it's my understanding that there will be a Christmas tree in town square.
Thank you for that.
And there are other options for, you see the improvements in both the Pineapple Grove district and at Boynton, where just simply stringing lights across the street, those little single bulbs, which is a permanent, just something that simple might be enough to, but that's something we need to investigate cost-wise. We'd have to get approval from both owners on both sides of the street to allow us to attach to the building. It's definitely more involved, but we could look at something like that in the future as a simple, more permanent, eye-catching way of helping out the business. So I think that's fine.
We're good.
Thank you.
Good.
all right. And so my request for the next meeting is give us the full budget of all the allocation, where the 3.7 million for the town square bond payment, so that we see where the total 12 million plus is going.
Yes, sir. We have that available. If you want us to go to page 1 of the document in front of you, we can show you that this evening.
I'm okay for next month.
Okay.
For next month.
Okay, very good. Very good. It is in your backup. How about that?
All right.
It is in the backup.
Thank you.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Moving on to item 14B, discussion of the CRA-owned properties located on Northeast 3rd Street, East MLK Junior Boulevard corridor. I brought this topic up at last meeting because Community Caring Center is no longer looking to build on that space. I had conversations with Colin Groff regarding that space may be used by the city and the CRA, with conversations of the moving the public works facility to Rolling Green. With that being the case, I'd like to hold off on any sort of development until we work more closely with the city, determine if Northeast 3rd Street or Northeast 2nd Street is the best connection between Northeast 9th Avenue and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Okay.
And so I'll ask the board if they're in a concurrence with that we take this off the agenda and wait to hear back from the city when they have a proposal for us.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And normally we put item 14C on consent agenda, but may I have a motion to approve commercial rent reimbursement for Blue Star Realty Pros.
I'll move.
Second.
Is there any discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 15A, discussion and consideration of a purchase and sale agreement for the properties located at 401, 407, and 411 East Boynton Beach Boulevard.
Yes, board.
You have a presentation.
Yes, Joe. If John, if you could just pull up for purposes of location, there's a attachment. Sorry, let's see. The attachment 1 would provide the aerial map, and then I can discuss the item from my computer. Board, the item before you is to discuss the purchase or possible purchase of the properties 401 to 411 on East Boynton Beach Boulevard. They are the west end of the block next to Railroad Avenue. The property is currently zoned C3 with a local retail commercial future land use classification. This is within the Boynton Beach Boulevard corridor in the district, which would ideally like to see a mixed-use high designation in this area across from the villages. This is kind of the entrance into the industrial park, so to speak, or our light industrial area in the eastern corridor. But having the Boynton Beach frontage, I think, provides an excellent opportunity for redevelopment within this area, and much needed. We have had a great relationship with the owners over the years, and have had discussions about this possibility, taking various forms, providing a relocation and finding something. They haven't been in the right time to sell at previous times, but they have offered and contacted us if we were interested. We had the property appraised for purposes under statute of establishing a value. It appraised at $917,000, and the seller has agreed to sell for that value, for that appraised value. We are providing a time for them to relocate in the contract. We would have a closing on or before October 30th of 2020. I believe the owner might be in the audience and would have to speak up or raise a hand if John wants to, if they are here and want to speak. And I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
My question is, there's current tenants there. Are we getting it with the leases, and how long are those leases?
No, sir. The majority of the property is occupied by the property owner, and the small retail space on the east side is on a month-to-month. So we are asking for the property to be unoccupied when we take ownership.
Okay. My next question is what is you've been in the buildings, and what is the quality of that? Are we buying this to demolish it and put up a parking lot, or is that something that we could hopefully repurpose for other uses in the meantime?
Yes, sir. They're concrete structures, and they're in good shape. We haven't done an inspection of roof materials and what have you, but we certainly have a due diligence period in the contract that we could inspect for those types of things. But it's an active business. It's a very well-maintained site. I don't imagine, unless the seller would certainly need to disclose any type of defect that they're aware of during that period. So I believe that this could be used for some other short-term potential, but I think long-term, certainly it would be incorporated with adjacent properties or redeveloped on its own for higher and better use.
And, part of, the redevelopment of Boynton Beach Boulevard is that the FDOT and ourselves are going to need space for the equipment, and that is a good space for the equipment. In my perspective, as I mentioned, I spoke with the laundromat owner earlier this year, and I spoke with the property owner to the north. They are both interested in working with the CRA for for the high density development of this. There's no single family homes here, and it's all commercial property. What is the total acreage of that block?
Of the whole block, this property is about 0.40 acres, 0.38. So I would say it's probably an acre and a half, maybe, the whole block going back to third.
And so it's something that we can put the 100 plus units or 80 units and really create property value for the CRA and the city. At the FRA meeting, they talked about how Walmart is not necessarily the best use for property because it's only one story. It's doing the multiple storied projects is what really brings in the property value. This, we all know, is has the land use and the zoning capability for that density. It's kind of like creating that downtown with the tiered structure, with the villages next to it. Casa Costa and Marina Village, One Ocean, 500 Ocean. So I'm in favor of this because without the CRA's help for land banking, I don't think we're going to have a project of any substantial nature anytime soon. And then the other question, where's the CRA getting the money?
I would be taking the money from our existing acquisition line and the future funding of the acquisition line. I would take the 917 plus closing costs. I would probably put that around 925, 928 needed. So it would potentially reduce your future acquisition down into the $250,000 range after this purchase in October. Because we have to buy, remember we are, but in a more positive way to state this, board, you're also acquiring in October for $1.3 million the 209 building. So you have two fairly large acquisitions. If you were to choose to purchase this, you would have this acquisition and the 209 building, which is the building next to the post office. So we have set aside money in the budget for that acquisition as well, that closing.
So I'll ask the board what their thoughts on it. Not hearing anything.
I concur with what you said about it, Chair. I agree with you.
Thank you. And I do see the property owner to the north on at the meeting. So I believe if he would like to speak, or we'll hear from the rest of the board.
Muted. Yes, I support this acquisition, Mayor.
And Board Member Romulus or Katz, do you have any statements?
I'm fine with this.
Yeah, I agree. It's a worthwhile project to try to piece together.
Okay. All right, may I have that motion?
Move.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Our next item is discussion and consideration of letter of request for use of the CRA-owned parking lot located at 115 North Federal.
Yes, board, on June 20th. I'm sorry, you want to take that, or do you want me to introduce it?
No, what I was going to ask is, what is it currently happening now after the library's moving? Does the CRA, I believe that we are in talks of demolishing that building, and so I don't want to do anything that's going to interfere with that as well.
Yes, sir. We are on path to demolish the building site itself, the footprint of the building, and leave the parking in both the north and the south lot, adjacent to the building, alone. So it won't affect the existing parking that's there. But yes, we will be doing that project most likely in September, October.
Okay.
So the item, you received a letter from the neighboring adjacent property owner of Ocean Properties LLC requesting the ability to lease the lot located at 115 North Federal Highway for their use. And he's provided an opportunity for you to have a right to terminate that lease. He would be paying $10 a foot per $10 a space per month, including the liability insurances. So his proposal is to lease the entire parking lot for a period of 1 year with unlimited renewals and a right to terminate if the property is sold by the CRA, and a lease of $10 a space per month.
And that was recently repaved as well?
It was resurfaced recently. It's in very good condition. The striping and the lighting, we did some additional lighting when the library, temporary library moved in. The CRA upgraded some of the light poles. And we have also additional lighting installed, the large lights from FP&L that were added to the poles.
All right. You know, for me, I don't think the ownership aspect for the property, 500 Ocean Properties LLC for $10 a space is accurate for the actual cost, because if we put paid parking and charged $1 an hour, we could make that money very quickly. And especially with the city having its new parking department, I kind of want to do what's best for the city and the CRA when it comes to parking in the downtown. Currently, it's free parking, and you know the last stipulation that it's the sale of the property is contingent on the developer building public park spacings for their tenants. I don't feel that that's something we can bind future buyers of that property as well. You know, I do understand that if they would like to reserve some spaces for their tenants, that it's comparable with the amount of cost that the CRAs put in and how much parking actually costs. Because you know, you go across the street to Marina Village, it's $5 a day, and you know, that's kind of where the aspect is that property was not cheap from the CRA.
Yes, sir.
And so I'd like to get a study from the CRA is what exactly is a reasonable amount that we should charge for parking. And, you know, if they're trying to put us in a long-term lease where they have unlimited renewals and we don't have the ability to cancel, and they get the ability to bind any future sellers, I don't think $10 a space is commensurable for that type of contract. And so I think we'll provide them free parking for now,
okay,
which is pretty good. And that if they're trying to bind the CRA, that it's more reasonable to current market prices.
Yeah.
And to get that information. Yes, Board Member Hay.
I just feel that that's a prime piece of property right there on US 1. And I just feel it's going to be no time flat for someone come in and have some ideas on developing that piece of property. So I just want to make sure that when the staff comes back, that we really take a close look and make sure that it's cost effective in the long run, whether or not, because it would be a cost to us probably to put in, I don't know, meters or whatever the ideas are. We're going to have to do to make it ready for use. And I just think we need to, you know, just take a close look at whether or not it will be cost effective. Mike, have you had any bites at all on potential buyers for that piece of property?
Yes, sir. Over the last 6 to 8 months, I've met with several parties, and certainly the last year, several parties interested in the site. I think that the board is on the right track with providing, essentially it's a public parking lot right now. So I don't think that you need to bind yourself to one particular business entity in order to provide that entity with parking, and keep your options open. You know, it's essentially, like I said, it really is, it turns into a parking lot once the library leaves. We certainly don't want to restrict use by the businesses in that area. We can also restrict it from overnight parking so that we don't have people leaving vehicles there, and some other security measures. But during normal operating hours, I don't see why at all it would be a problem to let the general public park there for uses in that area.
Yeah, I think it would be a drawing card to bring additional people to the little downtown area that we do have, if we allow it to remain free for right now. And at such time we decide something else, then we do that. But I certainly would be open to whatever great ideas you guys bring back at the next meeting.
And anything else from the board? I do see that Harvey Oyer and Christian Makiovic is in attendance. And I do understand your concern regarding future parking for your building, and that is something that I'd like to have the conversation. But I don't think $10 a parking space per month is adequate to bind the CRA at this time. And so, if there's no more further discussion, I'll ask for a motion to table this conversation to the next meeting where we get more information from CRA staff.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item 15D. Almost done. Discussion consideration of a letter of interest for the CRA-owned property located at 1110 North Federal Highway.
Yes, sir, board. We received on July 6th of this year, just a couple days ago, last week, we received a letter of interest from Mr. Ben Rogatitsky to acquire the property that the CRA owns located at 1110 North Federal Highway. And John, there is a map attached, which is attachment 1 for those in the public and for the board. The intended use under the acquisition or the potential acquisition of the property would be to construct a 1,000 to 1,200 square foot office building. They run a radio station that doesn't require any type of towering. It's all done inside with state-of-the-art satellite and digital, it's not satellite, digital programming. So there's, from the outside, it's essentially an office building. The LOI is offering to purchase the property for a purchase price of $25,000, plus offering 5 years of monthly radio advertising space, which is valued over that 5-year period at $60,000 in value. The project funding, the potential owners or the acquirers have principal equity in a secured construction loan, and their projected timeline from date of agreement would be 14 to 18 months, and they would have a finished building. This is a site that is currently vacant. It was a small florist shop when the CRA acquired it. It is roughly assessed in the property appraiser's office around $85,000 currently as a vacant site. We purchased it with the building in 2017 for $170,000, which was the appraised value at the time, slightly above. I think from a staff perspective, this is certainly a compatible use, and given our attempts with other entities and the city and pre-app meetings to try to develop this site, it is certainly restricted in size by the shape and the overall size of the site from a building perspective and parking. I think this is about as large a building as you're going to be able to get on the site unless you can acquire adjacent properties, which, as you all know, has been extremely difficult for the CRA. So I believe that the petitioner, the proposer, is in the audience. If you have any questions of them and their proposal, they're here to answer them.
And I'll open it up to the board if there's any questions or comments. My first comment is that the $60,000 worth of monthly radio advertising space is not necessarily their cost. It's the cost for us. And so I'd like to have something more in a long term for the life of the CRA, which I think we have another 20 years. that it may be a discounted rate of the advertising space for after the first 5 years. So that, you know, this is something that, you know, we form a partnership with WPBR in the long run, and that that way we'll be willing to advertise more with them because we're getting at a discounted rate. And so I'm going to unmute, I believe it's Ben Rogatinsky. Is that correct?
It's either Ben or Sam.
Okay. Ben, you've been unmuted.
Yeah, this is Ben, but actually it's Sam who's going to speak, so if you could unmute him, he's here as well.
I have unmuted him. He is currently self-muted.
Sam, you need to unmute yourself.
Am I good?
All right, Sam. Yep, we hear you now.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, board, and thank you for inviting WPBR Radio, 1340 AM and 96.1 FM and 95.1 FM to this meeting, and for giving us the opportunity to present to the board. My name is Sam Rogatinsky, and I'm here with my brother Ben Rogatinsky, who manages the station. WPBR is a community station, and our primary listeners are Haitian Americans who live in Palm Beach County. In addition to the Haitian, Creole, and English-speaking listeners, we have a diverse audience because on certain days, other groups or ethnicities will buy hours to reach their audience in Palm Beach County. Since 1955, WPBR has been broadcasting throughout Palm Beach County. The station broadcasts on the AM and FM band, and our coverage reaches from Pompano to Jupiter on the 3 signals. For almost 10 years, our broadcasting and production studios and offices have been located in the CRA district in a rented space at 2755 South Federal Highway in Boynton Beach. Recently, we were introduced to Mr. Simon of the CRA by Vice Mayor Ty Pinserga for the purpose of learning more about the opportunities in the CRA. After speaking to Mr. Simon, it became clear that the vacant small parcel located at 1110 North Federal would be ideal to build a small building of approximately 1,000 feet for the purpose of housing our broadcasting studios and our production studio. Our letter of interest is very clear. We offer the CRA a purchase price of $85,000. This amount is broken down by cash in the amount of $25,000 and advertising for the 5-year benefit of the city of Boynton Beach in the amount of $60,000. We arrived at a number based on the current Palm Beach County appraisal of the property. By working with WPBR, the city of Boynton will now have an outlet to reach residents of Boynton Beach with any pertinent information regarding city matters, all community events, city roundtables, and of course, emergency announcements related to the city of Boynton Beach. Another benefit that we can provide to the city of Boynton Beach is to offer select high school students within the city a summer internship program, which we can expand on at a later time. We believe that the offer we are making is a good one and that both the city of Boynton Beach, the CRA, and WPBR will benefit greatly by establishing a long-term relationship, as you said, Mayor. The CRA's goal and the city of Boynton Beach goal is to develop properties within the CRA and create a vibrant downtown core. The objective is to attract quality, long-term businesses that provide a benefit to the residents of Boynton Beach. WPBR fits that description. And if we do this move, we will bring pride to the listeners of WPBR, and we will provide a practical weekly benefit to the city for a period of 5 years. And we can discuss what you're saying in a minute. If we get approval from the board, we will move quickly. We simply don't have the time to waste. Between site plan, completing architectural and engineering plans, we need to move fast in order to build the structure and complete the radio station build out. Based on discussions with the architect and contractor, we know that we can be moved into a new building by the time our lease is up in 16 months. We believe that this small vacant parcel is ideal for our purpose. Even though most small businesses may need more space or more parking, the nature of the radio station business only requires a few spaces for hosts and guests at any time. We are confident that we can build a 1,000 square foot building and design a site plan that will get done in the prescribed time. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation.
So, Mayor, if you had mentioned you want to go longer, if you want to expand on that, we're open to discuss that.
So, in your statement, you were mentioning the city marketing, where this is the CRA. They're actually two different entities. Okay. City of Boynton Beach is the municipal entity, where the Community Redevelopment Agency is a quasi-government agency, which is a combination of both the city and the Palm Beach County's taxes. And so that's kind of where, I'm asking, if you're giving the city the $60,000 worth of marketing for their different events or information, I am in for that, and I'd like to also obtain a discount rate for the CRA. I don't know if you were here earlier on in the meeting, but we do advertise greatly through different print media, but I don't believe we do much with the radio.
Yeah, I'm very open to it. For example, let's say you want to speak to the residents of Boynton Beach, and you reach out to them through mail, and you say every certain day, whether it's Sunday or whatever, you could put together a half an hour show about what's going on in the city that we could run. Or if you want to come in and if you want to have certain city events, you could run them during the week at certain times. It's really up to you. I'm open to to work with you guys.
So, and that's the thing with the letter of intent. If we do move forward, which I hope that we do, it's that discussion of finalizing the actual $60,000 worth of advertising or programming space.
Okay.
And what that really means for the city, it means that for the CRA, and because we really can't speak on behalf of the city commission at this meeting. So,
Board Chair, I might ask the petitioner. I believe in at least our discussions that the offer of that broadcast, the ability to advertise space or what have you for the 5 years was geared toward the CRA. I don't know if that was something that was said tonight about the city itself, but it was my understanding that they were looking to work with us during that 5-year period.
So I think
which could involve some things from the city too, but I believe that the agreement was with us.
That's correct. The agreement is with the CRA. I just didn't understand what you were saying before, that you wanted the city, but the city can. You guys work it out with yourselves on how you advertise. CRA.
So that's kind of the whole thing is that what is exactly $12,000 worth of radio advertising space, which I guess equals $1,000 a month. Does that do a primetime program? Does that provide advertising in or commercial space for 30-minute clips? And then who will be creating those 30-minute clips? I think that's the discussion that the CRA and the marketing team that we can have, and so that that they can give us the options moving forward. And that's and then that goes to the other point, is that the cost for you to have the $60,000 of advertising space is not necessarily $60,000. That's the appraised value. I'd like maybe possibly more which means a discounted rate after the 5 years.
Oh, okay. I mean, but yeah, the answer is the cost of that is our real cost. In other words, if we don't, we're pretty booked because we've been around for a long time. So if we don't sell an hour, then we charge $250 an hour to whoever comes. So you'd get an hour a week to split up. Let's say you want to do it in 5 minutes times, or if you want to do it in two half hours, you get that. You would get that. We would just work it in based on the CRA schedule.
Okay. Perfect. So
if I could just enter, this is Ben Rogatinsky. If I could just jump in and add, I mean, the way we envisioned is what Stan was saying. We could carve out a time, as you say, in prime time. It could be on a weeknight or whatever works, where we would set up a show. I call it a show, however you want to format it, where people from the CRA, the city, whoever, you can talk about events that are happening in the city, topics of interest to members of the community. It doesn't have to be the full hour. For example, if you say a half an hour is enough, we could then split up more time throughout the week with commercials, 5-minute infomercials, call-ins, things of that nature. So, you know, we can be flexible with that. Whatever will work with your marketing department in order to get the most outreach to the community.
Perfect. And I think that's good, because I think part of the CRA is that we will want to be advertising other businesses as well through your radio station.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
It's great.
All right.
I mean, there
We
could
probably
be
use that time for that advertising. I mean, that'd be perfect. It's like buying time for the businesses. So that's, we can work that out. It's lots of flexibility there.
I mean, there could be a community hour or half hour or whatever it is where you tell other local businesses that you want to promote. Say, hey, you know what? During this time, you can come and talk about your new restaurant that you opened up, or whatever else. And let people know about it. I mean, the time, whatever time is carved out, will be yours to do with. I mean, obviously within FCC guidelines. No cursing on the air.
Okay,
yeah,
absolutely.
Let me add, I know that Vice Chair Mayor Gonzaga has been to, I don't know, you remember you were at the Riviera Beach day that we did over there at a big fair. You see how many
Haitian
people
Flag Day.
Yeah, Haitian Flag Day.
I was there at Haitian Flag Day, and I think I've been at your station multiple times.
And you've seen the kind of crowd that we bring out when we have just an event.
Oh, absolutely. You know, there was a food distribution, and one small announcement, hundreds of people showed up, and that was phenomenal. So clearly your reach is very, very wide.
Thank you. Yes, we've been working hard at it.
Okay. So is there any other questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept the letter of interest and begin negotiations.
Second.
All right. Seeing no more further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Great. Congratulations. We'll begin working with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, item 15E for consideration of the neighborhood sign installation and repair grant program. I reviewed it, and I think the CRA did a great job. And the aspect of the to be determined parts, I would recommend that it's throughout the CRA district, and that it is a limited number of signs. But it's, you know, the $5,000 is based upon per association.
I concur. Throughout the district, limit to 5.
Yep, and that way it's kind of like our other grants, is that it's first come, first serve.
So they could do as many signs as they could afford to with the grant, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Right. If they're, you know, if they're doing 20 signs, they're still only getting $5,000.
That's great. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay. And so may I have a motion to approve the sign economic development grant as stated.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Board Chair, I was
Yes.
wondering also, one of the items that we would request your direction is the allocation of funds.
I thought that was part of the budget that we saw earlier, the 25,000.
So it would begin in October 1st, unless
Right.
you, yes.
Okay.
That sounds fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that.
Thank you, Twee. That's a good question. Thank you.
The CRA advisory board, I'd like to put the review of the CRA budget on their agenda. And I've had a discussion. And do I have a second?
Second. Or,
thank you.
Sorry, second to me.
All right. All those in favor, is there any discussion from the board? Hearing none. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. In addition, I'd like to, I spoke with our executive director about adding properties for sale, commercial and industrial properties. I know that we technically do not have funding in the budget right now to buy most properties. However, it's kind of like trying to get, I guess, a fair evaluation or appraisal of certain properties so that we know what is the true value of what's going on. You know, for example, Homing Inn is listed for $10 million for sale. And so that's something that I'd like to give the CRA advisory board you know, not a difficult task, but have the CRA staff review 3 or 4 different commercial properties for sale, so that the CRA advisory board can have that discussion and make recommendations should the CRA approve for an appraisal or to try to, you know, help find owners of that. Basically, it's, and then the worst case scenario is that it's going to be advertising the properties for sale in the CRA with hopefully more people looking to buy and redevelop. So, is there any comments from the board? Okay, not hearing any comments.
Mayor, I'm trying to just fully understand the request.
For example, the power lifts, you know,
Yeah.
I believe it was for sale for, listed for sale for a while, if I'm not mistaken, Mike?
I believe that we were going in private discussion with them. I don't believe that it was ever physically for sale with a broker, but we used a broker to contact them at one point after staff had had several discussions with them.
Okay, I think it was for sale by owner then.
Okay.
I do remember walking by there, and so that's something that, you know, my aspect of it is that, you know, we have an advisory board that has not been doing much, and I'd like to give them a task that helps further the mission of redevelopment in the CRA. You know, looking at these properties, getting accustomed with this is something that we can do, because otherwise I don't know what the CRA advisory board is going to do. You know, coming up, you know, because are we going to, you know, we haven't tasked them with, you know, recommendations for the RFP. Is that something that we want to also task them with? Because that's normally, I think, what we've done in the past. And so, you know, the question is that I don't think we should have a CRA advisory board if we're using them once a year to tell us we're right with our budget or make recommendations. And so that's discretion for the city, but you know, if we don't give them different tasks or assignments, what's the real purpose of them?
I would be open to assigning them these tasks that you mentioned. I don't know
Both
if anybody else supports that, but
the property and the RFP.
yes, it can't hurt.
And do I have a, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, I just said I have no objections.
Okay. And normally we do it by a motion to put items on their agenda. So I'll make the motion to put on the total of 3 items, the budget that we've already approved, and then 3 or 4 properties a month for them to review and make recommendations for us, and to make recommendations for the RFP for the cottage district.
Very good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So moved.
A second.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. And then for the future agenda item, before the meeting, we received information on item 17C. I'll request the amendment to the agenda so that we can discuss about that a little bit now, and then we'll go for adjournment if the CRA board wants to do that.
Or we can bring it back, or I can bring it back, you know, we can move it off future and put it on for the next meeting. You still have time to talk about the budget at that point too.
I mean, my whole thing is to give staff directions. You know, do we have a majority of people that want to have the properties? I think we had that conversation. The point is that do we make it formal or just it's more of a consensus?
If you're asking me, board chair, you.
No, I'm asking the board.
Sorry. Okay.
So
thank you.
I'm trying to get them to talk.
You're doing a great job for us, Mayor.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I don't have a preference.
Okay.
Okay. If there's something to be said and it's prepared now, I'd be open to hearing it. But generally, I would prefer to wait until next meeting.
I prefer to wait till the next meeting.
Okay. So the executive director sent us an email stating what you said earlier, the additional units. It was sent at 5:19. That the 8 units, that additional 8 units is 1,897,848, based on a total per unit development cost excluding land of $235,981. You didn't explain if these are the 2 bedrooms or the 3 bedrooms.
They hadn't, yes, sir. They didn't tell me that. That's what I would bring back to you next week.
The added units would increase the first mortgage by about $680,000. The amount needed from the CRA is about $1.2 million. Could be all at once or pledged of a tax incremental revenue of $65,000 per year for 15 years. While the Florida Housing Finance Corporation is unlikely to object to adding units, the process nevertheless will take time, so we have to resolve this as soon as possible, was the email I received from our executive director. And so that's kind of why I want to get, you know, a motion and a direction for our executive director to say, yes, we're in favor of having the discussion now. So if they need to speak with the FHFC and say, what is their response to additional units, then we can have that at next meeting. So we have that more information, because we've experienced in the past where if we wait, we sometimes miss things.
Right.
So I'm in favor of moving forward with those additional items, especially if we are able to do it with tax incremental funding for that project.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Simon, you'd have this ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're looking for consensus on whether the board wants to buy additional units. And if that's the case, and you're interested in buying additional units to add to the already 124 units that they've received funding for, then it's really quite that simple. I'll bring the information to you next month on whether those are 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom.
Okay.
It looks like they'll be adding a floor, basically just mirroring the 3rd floor and creating a 4th floor of units. It's an opportunity again to get 8 more than you have now.
Right. Well, I support this in general. So if you can have the information ready, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, great.
I also support it.
Okay.
Same.
All right. Thank you so much, board. And so with that being just said, if there's nothing else, I'll move for a request for a motion to adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. All have a good night. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, board. Thank you very
John,
much.
like
Good
to
night.
say,
Hurry up.
do the closing?
Goodbye.
Sure. As a reminder, a recorded version of this session will be posted to the CRA's YouTube channel. Links to that channel are available on the CRA's website at catchboynton.com. This concludes tonight's meeting. On behalf of Board Chair Stephen Grant, all of our board members, the CRA Director, and CRA staff, thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Be safe and have a great evening.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
everybody.
everybody.
All right.
Good night.